Chapter 206. At that moment, the entire sky seemed to be dyed red. Everyone's gaze was focused in that direction. Alkaid's sacred leader was dead? Even some of the sempiternal realm giants trembled when they saw this scene, and their expressions changed drastically. They stared at the scene in the void in disbelief. The Alkaid sacred leader had already become famous 1,000 years ago. In that generation, the Alkaid sacred leader could definitely be said to be one of the strongest prodigies. In the end, Alkaid's sacred leader had won the position of Alkaid's sacred leader in front of many competitors. From a famous supreme talent, he had successfully become one of the top figures in the martial god continent. He had an important position. In everyone's eyes, Alkaid's sacred leader's life was full of legends. Many people envied him. However, what had happened today had completely ended Alkaid's sacred leader's legendary life. A newly ascended prodigy had actually stepped on the head of the Alkaid sacred lord and blasted his head apart with a single punch. As everyone knew, when a martial artist's cultivation reached the immortal realm, their lifespan would be more than 10,000 years. If there were no accidents, they would not die. Even if their limbs were chopped off, they could regrow their limbs. When a martial artist reached the immortal realm, no matter which part of his body was damaged, he could recover it. Even if his head was chopped off, he could still continue to live. However, if a martial artist below the immortal realm had his head chopped off, he would definitely die. Only people like the Holy Lord of Langya and Tao Xian who had reached the immortal realm could become immortal and regrow their heads. However, everyone knew that although the Alkaid Saint Sovereign was very strong, he still hadn't reached the undying realm. He was only at the peak of the immortal realm. Although he was only one step away, this step was like a deep abyss that was difficult to cross. Now, his head had been smashed by Hao Tian's holy son in front of everyone's eyes. This meant that the Alkaid sacred leader was going to disappear from this world. Until this moment, no one present had reacted in time. They still could not believe what they had seen. A sacred leader who stood at the peak of the martial god continent, one of the 7 sacred grounds, had been killed just like that. Not to mention the younger generation, even the old monsters who had lived for thousands of years had never seen such a scene. A Saint Lord had actually been beaten to death by a junior. If word got out, it would definitely cause a huge uproar. In the past, the fall of a sacred lord was definitely the most sensational event on the martial god continent. But today, the peerless battle prowess that Jun Haoyan displayed had completely suppressed this feeling of dread. Everyone felt numb after witnessing Jun Haoyan's terrifying performance. At this moment, Demon King Jiao and the others also stopped running. They looked at the Alkaid sacred leader who had been killed by Jun Haoyan with a single punch. 5 holy lords had besieged the Langya holy grounds, and now one of them had actually fallen. No one would believe such a result even if they told others about it. In terms of the 5 great factions, the Alkaid sacred master's faction had suffered heavy losses. I can't run anymore. If I leave my back to him, he will have a chance. If we split up, we will die sooner or later. The Alkaid sacred leader couldn't even withstand one blow from him. If we continue to split up, I'm afraid I will be next. Everyone, don't hold back. Otherwise, we might not have the chance to display our full strength in the future. Seeing the tragic death of the Alkaid sacred leader, the Green Cloud sacred leader and the All-Heaven sacred leader, who were only at the immortal creator realm, were completely flustered. In order to save their lives, they didn't dare to hold back anymore. At this moment, the surrounding void had been sealed by the supreme weapon. All the people they had brought with them were also held back by Tao Xian. Without their obstruction, Tao Xian was at the immortal realm and no one could match up to him. Now that their supreme weapon had run away, they could only rely on themselves. Then the few of them stopped running and started to team up again. A few extremely powerful forces started to gather together, and their power was overwhelming. After seeing the outcome of the Alkaid sacred leader, they naturally knew that if they split up, they wouldn't be a match for the holy son of Hao Tian. They would be defeated one by one and killed one by one. However, when Jun Haoyan saw that they had teamed up again, his expression didn't change at all. In fact, there was even a trace of disdain in his pitch-black eyes. The few people in front of him were considered the most powerful people in the martial god continent. At this moment, in order to survive, they were actually teaming up to deal with a junior. Such a scene was inconceivable to everyone. Compared to Tao Xian's unyielding attitude when facing the 5 top experts, the few top experts' behavior was really despicable. However, was it useful for them to team up? Looking at Demon King Jiao and the others, Jun Haoyan couldn't help but sneer. He was determined to kill these people today. It was useless no matter who came. Then Jun Haoyan slowly took a step forward. Various kinds of intense divine light filled his body. It was dazzling and overbearing. He displayed the power of a peerless expert. Holy Lord All Heaven, Holy Lord Azure Cloud, you can't tell right from wrong. You joined forces with Holy Lord Alcade and our accomplices. You should be killed. Looking at Demon King Jiao and the others, Jun Haoyan spoke again like a god, announcing their execution. At this moment, Jun Haoyan was like the ruler of life and death, deciding the fate of these people. In the next moment, Jun Haoyan didn't waste any time. He directly circulated his true origin and attacked them. At this moment he could only stay in the immortal longevity realm for the time it takes 3 incense sticks to burn. There wasn't much time left, so he had to hurry. Boom, boom, boom. In the next moment the entire void began to tremble. Jun Haoyan punched out with the bell of no beginning above his head. The secret of all, the secret of battle, the divine elephant overpowering force, the indestructible divine body, and other terrifying divine abilities and cultivation techniques were all activated at this moment. When Demon King Jiao and the others saw this, they also joined forces completely. Bursts of abstruse and mysterious light burst out from their bodies in an attempt to resist Jun Haoyan's terrifying attack. This move carried the supreme power of Jun Haoyan from the bell of no beginning. Although he didn't carry a lot of it, even a 10,000th of it was enough to suppress Demon King Jiao and the others. Boom. This punch was like a supreme divine power descending into the world, and it seemed like heaven and earth would be shattered. Even though Demon King Jiao and the others' strength had reached the peak of the martial god continent, they couldn't resist this mighty power at all. In the next moment the 4 of them kept retreating. The weakest of the 4, Holy Lord Azure Cloud, turned pale and trembled. Seeing this, Jun Haoyan's lips curled into a cold smile. Of course he had to pick on the weak ones. In the next moment Jun Haoyan moved his mind, and a bunch of freedom wings that contained mysterious power appeared behind Jun Haoyan's back. In a flash he disappeared from the spot. In the next moment he appeared in front of Holy Lord Azure Cloud before Demon King Jiao and the others could react. I'll take your life while you're down. Without any mercy or fancy moves, Jun Haoyan threw a punch at Holy Lord Azure Cloud's body. In just an instant Holy Lord Azure Cloud's chest exploded, and even his heart was torn apart. However, this level of injury wasn't enough to kill someone of his level. But when he came into close contact with Jun Haoyan's terrifying aura, Holy Lord Azure Cloud felt like an ant. Endless fear filled his heart, and he felt like he was going to die at any moment. Come and save me. Holy Lord Azure Cloud panicked when he thought of Alcade Holy Lord's tragic death. In the next moment, he completely ignored his identity as a Holy Lord and roared at his surroundings. At this moment, Demon King Jiao and the others naturally reacted. When they saw that Holy Lord Azure Cloud was about to die in Jun Haoyan's hands, they immediately attacked without hesitation. If Holy Lord Azure Cloud died, their strength would be weakened by another level. But in the next moment the entire heaven and earth turned into an icy hell. Even the space seemed to have frozen. Then Demon King Jiao and the others were shocked to find that the true origin in their bodies couldn't operate normally. Heavenly Heart Frost Arrogance Technique. At this moment, Jun Haoyan directly used this terrifying divine power that came from Jun Moyo. This remarkable ability came from the Divine Realm's Supreme Divine Lady of 4 stars, so its power was naturally extraordinary. In the next moment, Demon King Jiao and the others realized that their speed had become extremely slow. They could only watch as Holy Lord Azure Cloud's body was torn apart by Jun Haoyan. In just a breath's time, Holy Lord Azure Cloud's powerful body was completely destroyed by Jun Haoyan. Not to mention his head, there wasn't even a speck of flesh left. Only a rain of blood was left in the entire void, as well as Holy Lord Azure Cloud's shrill screams before his death. This scene sent chills down everyone's spines and made their hearts tremble. At this moment, Holy Lord Azure Cloud had died. Today, this was the second Holy Lord that had died in Jun Haoyan's hands. At this moment, it was as if heaven and earth had stopped. Everyone was stunned by this scene. However, at this moment, Jun Haoyan suddenly turned around and slowly looked at Holy Lord Azure Cloud, who was the weakest among the 3 remaining people. This gaze was like the gaze of the Grim Reaper, chilling to the bone. When he met Jun Haoyan's gaze, Holy Lord Azure Cloud felt as if he was being stared at by an evil spirit. His entire body couldn't stop trembling. In the next moment, his psychological defenses collapsed. He ignored Demon King Jiao and the others and turned into a stream of light to escape towards the horizon. It was too terrifying. At this moment, Holy Lord Azure Cloud really didn't dare to face Jun Haoyan. He had never seen such a terrifying enemy before. However, the collapsed Holy Lord Azure Cloud didn't expect that this world had been completely sealed by the no-beginning bell. Now, with the no-beginning bell in his hand, he was like the master of this space. Unless an Emperor Realm legend appeared, no one would be able to contend against him. Looking at Holy Lord Azure Cloud, who had turned into a stream of light and escaped, Jun Haoyin had a mocking look on his face. In the next moment, Jun Haoyin took out the sun-shooting divine bow. Jun Haoyin's true chi surged as he pulled the sun-shooting divine bow to its maximum. Shwa. In the next moment, a golden stream of light pierced through the void and blasted Holy Lord Azure Cloud's body. Boom. Holy Lord Azure Cloud's body exploded as his flesh and blood evaporated. The moment the arrow was shot, the sky changed color. Chapter 2. Cutting weeds and pulling out the roots. At this moment, the world suddenly turned dark. The air was filled with a thick smell of blood. A scarlet blood mist drifted between the heavens and the earth, causing one's heart to tremble. Holy Lord Azure Cloud had fallen. In front of everyone's eyes, he was killed by Hao Tian's holy sun with a single arrow. Just like the light-shaking holy sun and Holy Lord Azure Cloud, he was killed in front of everyone without any room for resistance. A holy lord of his generation had died such a miserable death. Today this was the third holy lord that had fallen in the hands of Hao Tian's holy sun. Thinking of this, everyone's hands and feet turned cold. Originally, they had come here today to see if Langya Holy Land could protect itself under the siege of the five great forces. Would Langya Holy Land obediently hand over Hao Tian's holy sun under the coercion of the five great forces? But the result was beyond everyone's expectations. The defeated side was actually the five great forces that seemed to have the advantage in numbers. Even their strongest holy lord was killed by Hao Tian's holy sun in front of everyone. While everyone was sighing, they could not help but look at Hao Tian's holy sun in the sky with fear. Hao Tian's holy sun had killed 3 holy lords in a row. This Hao Tian's holy sun was really ruthless and did not leave any room for negotiation. Jun Haoyin's actions could be considered as creating an eternal enmity between Langya Holy Land and the other 3 holy lands. It could be said that from today onwards, Holy Lord Azure Cloud, Holy Lord Azure Cloud, and Holy Lord Azure Cloud would be enemies with Langya Holy Land for generations to come. Of course, this was nothing to the current Langya Holy Land. In this battle, the 3 holy lands had suffered heavy losses. Even their holy lord had died in the hands of Hao Tian's holy sun. Compared to the other holy lands, the 3 holy lands were much weaker. Moreover, even their strongest holy lord and their ultimate supreme weapon had been lost. How could the 3 holy lands fight against Langya Holy Land in the future? They might not even be able to keep their position as one of the 7 holy lands. Moreover, the outcome of this battle had caused a complete upheaval in Eastern Wilderness. From today onwards, the Eastern Wilderness, which had been stable for tens of thousands of years, would undergo earth-shattering changes. After today's battle, the entire martial god continent's martial artists knew that the rise of Langya Holy Land was unstoppable. In this battle, Langya Holy Land could be said to have stepped on the heads of the other 3 holy lands. They had directly risen to the top and displayed their unparalleled potential. No matter in the face of a great battle, all the disciples of Langya were united as one. They fought together without fear of death. It was also the cold-blooded scene of Hao Tian's holy sun fighting against 5 top experts and killing 3 holy lords. All of this showed that in the future, Langya Holy Land would soar into the sky and even surpass the current Kunlun Holy Land. It would be the top holy land of the human race. At this moment, in the void, Jun Haoyin slowly put away the sun-slaying divine bow. After killing 3 holy lords, Jun Haoyin's expression did not change at all. Under everyone's gaze, he slowly turned around and looked at Demon King Jiao and Master of Fairy Fox. Compared to the 3 holy lords, Demon King Jiao and Master of Fairy Fox did not have supreme weapons to protect themselves. However, in terms of individual combat strength, Demon King Jiao and Master of Fairy Fox, who were from the Demon Clan, were much stronger. However, as the 2 supreme experts of the Demon Clan, Demon King Jiao and Master of Fairy Fox's expressions were extremely ugly at this moment. They were still stunned on the spot, looking at the bloody mist in the sky in disbelief. Until now they had yet to react. The joint attack of the 5 of them was actually easily broken by Hao Tian's holy sun. With the terrifying strength that Hao Tian's holy sun had just displayed, it seemed that no matter how many people there were, it would be useless. With the strength of the 2 of them, they were absolutely no match for him. After a moment of shock, Demon King Jiao and Master of Fairy Fox forced themselves to calm down. Holy Son of Hao Tian, 3 holy lords have already died today. You should be satisfied. This matter ends here. We promise that we will never be enemies with you in the future. In the void, Demon King Jiao felt Jun Haoyan's cold gaze and gritted his teeth. His tone was somewhat submissive. When Demon King Jiao said that, everyone present was incomparably shocked. As the most powerful person in the southern border, Demon King Jiao's status had always been incomparably high in the martial god continent. Especially in the southern border, his status was comparable to the most powerful person in the eastern wilderness, Holy Lord Linglong. However, this publicly acknowledged most powerful person in the southern border was actually admitting defeat to Hao Tian's holy son. This undoubtedly made everyone's jaws drop again. Since ancient times, the nine-headed divine flood dragon clan had been a large clan among the demon clan. Relying on their powerful forces, the nine-headed divine flood dragon had always been extremely arrogant and looked down on everyone. It was even more so in front of humans. They did not even care about human prodigies of the same cultivation level. But now, a peerless prodigy of the nine-headed divine flood dragon clan actually admitted defeat and begged for mercy in front of Hao Tian's holy son. This was something that had never happened in the history of the demon clan. This also indirectly reflected Hao Tian's holy son's strength. That's right, holy son of Hao Tian. The cause of this incident was entirely Alcade Holy Lord and the other two. The two of us were merely participants. Now that the main culprit is dead, I think this matter should end here. After Demon King Jiao finished speaking, the Fairy Fox Monarch also spoke up. Her tone was the same as Demon King Jiao's. After the previous battle, they had completely experienced Jun Haoyan's current strength. With the support of a supreme weapon, the two of them were no match for him at all. Instead of being beaten to death by Hao Tian's holy son like Alcade Holy Lord and the others, they would rather take the initiative to admit defeat and save their own lives. Of course, this was only temporary. With the pride of the nine-headed divine flood dragon clan and the Green Hill Fox clan, they definitely could not swallow the humiliation today. One had to know that the nine-headed divine flood dragon clan and the Green Hill Fox clan's roots were not in the martial god continent, but in the divine demon continent. As long as the two of them returned alive today, they would definitely be able to avenge today's humiliation by inviting the masters of their clans from the divine demon continent. In the divine demon continent, the nine-headed divine flood dragon clan and the Green Hill Fox clan both had extremely high status. There were even supreme masters of the Emperor Realm in their clans. The Emperor Realm was much stronger than the Immortal Realm cultivators. Masters of this realm were also known as legendary masters. Once an Emperor Realm master descended upon the Langya Holy Land, the Langya Holy Land would definitely not be able to stop them. At this moment, Demon King Jiao and the Fairy Fox Monarch had such an idea in their hearts. A wise man submits to circumstances. They would first save their lives today and bring people to massacre the Langya Holy Land in the future. Unfortunately, they would be wasting their efforts. When Jun Haoyan heard the two of them, he laughed mockingly. Let this matter end here? I can't believe you can say that. When you said that you wanted to destroy the entire Langya Holy Land, why didn't you think of letting it go? Instead, you chose to kill everyone? In the next moment, Jun Haoyan raised his voice. His words were like a huge bell shaking the world. With his shrewdness, how could he not know what these two monster race cultivators were thinking in their hearts? Mere monster race cultivators with well-developed limbs dared to play tricks in front of him. They were simply courting death. If he spared these two guys this time, it would definitely be like letting a tiger return to the mountain. Demon King Jiao and the Fairy Fox Monarch came from the monster race, which was different from the three holy lands. Their roots were in the distant divine demon continent. After a cultivator's cultivation reached the immortal realm, they could cross the boundary of the world and reach other continents. But basically there was a long distance between each continent, and no one could easily cross it. However, if these two monster race cultivators were allowed to go and get reinforcements, they might really provoke the arrival of a powerful master. This was something that Jun Haoyan did not want to see. After this battle, the Langya Holy Land needed to recuperate and was not ready to fight again. Therefore, Jun Haoyan still looked at Demon King Jiao and the Fairy Fox Monarch coldly and said slowly, "Today neither of you can escape." As he spoke, Jun Haoyan once again showed the world his unparalleled dominance. Even in the face of the monster race cultivators who had already surrendered, he was still unmoved and did not take a step back. In Jun Haoyan's heart, only by killing these two monster race cultivators could he ensure the stability of the Langya Holy Land for a while. Holy son of Hao Tian, you have to think carefully. Whether it is the nine-headed divine dragon clan or the Green Hill Fox clan, we are all big clans in the divine demon continent. If you insist on killing us, You will have to bear the endless anger of the monster race behind us. By then, the Langya Holy Land will not be able to bear it. Holy Son of Hao Tian, please think twice before you act. Don't become the eternal sinner of the Langya Holy Land. Seeing that the Holy Son of Hao Tian was stubborn and showed no signs of backing down, Demon King Jiao could not help but be furious. As a member of the noble nine-headed Divine Dragon clan, he had already humbled himself and admitted defeat, but the Holy Son of Hao Tian still refused to give up. He was really going too far. However, he had never thought that if the Langya Holy Land was in danger of being destroyed at this moment, would they show mercy? Cut the weeds and dig up the roots. This was the first rule of a cultivator. This was how the world worked. When you had great power but did not eliminate the future troubles, the one who would be destroyed in the future was very likely to be yourself. What Jun Haoyan wanted to do at this moment was to cut the weeds and dig up the roots. If Demon King Jiao and the Fairy Fox Monarch did not die, there would be endless trouble in the future. Because behind them stood the Divine Demon Continent, a world ranked in the top 20 of the 3,000 worlds. In the Divine Demon Continent, there were not only legendary existences of the Emperor Realm, but also Saint King Realm Masters. As such, Jun Haoyan would not let Demon King Jiao and the Fairy Fox Monarch leave alive today. It's useless to say more. When you attacked the Langya Holy Land, today's result was destined. Looking at Demon King Jiao and the Fairy Fox Monarch, Jun Haoyan said ruthlessly. In the next moment, Jun Haoyan made his move decisively. He had to get rid of these two monster race giants before the power of the Saraira disappeared. With the support of the Without Beginning Bell, he had reached his strongest state at this moment. Demon King Jiao's immortal and undying realm cultivation was nothing in his eyes. The wings behind Jun Haoyan spread out as divine light shone from his body. His killing intent was overwhelming. He's going too far. Fairy Fox Monarch, let's fight it out with him. I don't believe he can maintain his current strength forever. Seeing this scene, Demon King Jiao and the Fairy Fox Monarch looked at each other and had no choice but to attack in anger. They did not believe that Jun Haoyan's strength was endless. Relying on external power, sooner or later, there will be a moment when it will be used up. Boom. Then, the three of them collided and burst out a vast brilliance that was even more dazzling than the sun. Everyone looked at the scene in front of them and was shocked to the point of numbness. They did not know what to say. In the distance, Guyue Huang helplessly shook her head when she saw this scene. This guy, no matter when and who he faced, was always so strong. As for the people of the Langya Holy Land, they looked at the scene in front of them with incomparable nervousness. They knew that as long as the Holy Sun defeated the two giants of the monster race, the Holy Land would be safe. Not only would the Langya Holy Land solve the current crisis, but its reputation would also rise to a new level. At this time, in the hearts of all the disciples and elders of the Langya Holy Land, Jun Haoyan's position had surpassed everything. He was the only Holy Lord in the future. The void trembled, the heaven and earth shook, and endless divine light shone. The final battle was coming and everyone was paying attention. However, some of the experts had already guessed the result. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. At this moment, with such terrifying strength and the protection of a supreme weapon, how could the Holy Son of Haoyan be defeated? Even if Demon King Jiao had the unparalleled strength of the immortal realm, he was definitely not a match for the Holy Son of Haoyan. This was the thought in the minds of the experts in the Langya Holy Land who were watching from the outside. In their opinion, the key to this battle was when the Holy Son of Haoyan's strength would run out. Naturally, they also knew that the Holy Son of Haoyan was able to possess such terrifying strength with the help of an external object. Relying on the power of external objects sooner or later would be exhausted. In this battle, Demon King Jiao only had one way to fight. That was to stall for time. As long as he could hold on until the Holy Son of Haoyan's strength ran out, he would have a chance. At that time, even if he could not kill the Holy Son of Haoyan who had a supreme weapon, he could still escape unscathed. Without the power of external forces, the Holy Son of Haoyan's strength would return to the second layer of the Transcendence realm. With that kind of strength, he would not be able to use a supreme weapon for a long time. It had to be said that the power of the supreme weapon in Jun Haoyan's hands was too strong. Demon King Jiao almost could not muster up the courage to fight. This kind of power could only be suppressed by an Emperor Realm Master who also had a supreme weapon. Supreme weapons were also divided into different grades, and the one in Jun Haoyan's hands was definitely the top grade. At this moment, the Holy Son of Haoyan, Jun Haoyan, stood in the void condescendingly. Above his head, The without beginning bell continued to cast down tens of thousands of rays of light, each of which was extremely dazzling. These multicolored lights automatically revolved around Jun Haoyan, protecting his body so that he would not be harmed in the slightest. In the void, a vast amount of true qi burst out from his body. As giants of the monster race, Demon King Jiao and Heavenly Fox King were not to be trifled with. Compared to Alcade Holy Master and the other two Holy Masters, Demon King Jiao and Heavenly Fox King were naturally much stronger. With the powerful physique of the monster race, very few human race cultivators of the same realm could suppress them. But now, even with the two giants of the monster race joining forces, they could not shake Jun Haoyan at all. This is not good. The supreme weapon on this brat's body is like a tortoise shell. What should we do, King Jiao? Heavenly Fox King frowned when he saw that he could not shake Jun Haoyan at all after using his full strength to launch a shocking attack. Under the protection of the supreme weapon, Heavenly Fox King's supreme divine ability was like a stone sinking into the sea, unable to cause any threat at all. It was like punching cotton. Heavenly Fox King had never encountered such a frustrating battle before. If it were any other time, even if the Holy Son of Haoyan had the cultivation of the immortal 10,000 longevity realm, he would not take him seriously. But now, with the supreme weapon in hand, the Holy Son of Haoyan had rendered him helpless. Don't fight him head-on. Fight him and stall for time. Hearing this, Demon King Jiao frowned slightly. He knew Heavenly Fox King's difficulties. But even with his cultivation of the immortal 10,000 longevity realm, he could not shake the Holy Son of Haoyan at all. In front of the Holy Son of Haoyan, he could only be beaten up passively. This was the power of the supreme weapon. No matter who it was, as long as they could activate the supreme weapon, they could break the balance. It was also because of the supreme weapon that the holy lands and empires could be immortal for countless years. And Jun Haoyan took full advantage of this. What he wanted was to use the supreme weapon to protect himself. This was because he knew very well that even with the help of the 18 Venerables' great salvation immeasurable relic, it would be difficult for him to kill Demon King Jiao. Therefore, Jun Haoyan used the without beginning bell to protect himself and completely ignore the opponent's attack. This could save him a lot of trouble. Boom. In an instant, thousands of golden scales around Demon King Jiao's body trembled and burst out with endless light, as if they were going to pierce through his eyes. Trying to stall for time? Realizing the purpose of the two, Jun Haoyan laughed. He naturally knew what Demon King Jiao was planning. As long as the power in his body dissipated, it would be difficult for him to activate the supreme weapon with his cultivation of the Transcendence realm. At that time, the surrounding space that had been sealed by the supreme weapon would become weak. They could then use their power to break the seal and escape. Unfortunately, Jun Haoyan would not give them the chance at all. In the next moment, a pair of pure white divine wings of freedom appeared on his back once again. Jun Haoyan used the same trick again. In an instant, he turned into a stream of light and directly appeared in front of Heavenly Fox King. At this moment, Jun Haoyan did not hold back at all. He directly activated all the vital essence in his body and even mobilized the power of the immortal bell to enhance his fist. At this moment, Jun Haoyan seemed to have turned into the god of war again as he punched out. Each punch could tear apart thousands of miles of mountains and rivers and shatter meteorites. It was extremely terrifying. Faced with this sudden attack, Heavenly Fox King could not resist at all. In just an instant, Jun Haoyan threw out countless punches, all landing on Heavenly Fox King's body. Even though Heavenly Fox King was from the Demon Clan and had an unparalleled physical body, under Jun Haoyan's terrifying fist prints, it was impossible for him to resist. Even Heavenly Fox King's defense had reached its limit. His shoulder directly exploded, and a bloody mist appeared in the sky. When Demon King Jiao saw this scene, his expression changed drastically. He immediately swooped over and continuously activated his terrifying divine ability. However, at this moment, Jun Haoyan did not resist at all. He grabbed Heavenly Fox King and kept punching. Puff, puff, puff. In the end, Heavenly Fox King's body completely exploded, leaving only his head to escape. He was not in the immortal realm yet. If his head was destroyed, he would die. It was also at this moment that Jun Haoyan channeled all his strength and stepped on Heavenly Fox King's head. In the next moment, Heavenly Fox King's head directly exploded, and he died. 4 of the supreme powerhouses of the 5 major forces were killed instantly. Ah, Holy Son of Haoyan, I want you dead. Seeing the tragic death of Heavenly Fox King, Demon King Jiao was furious. His entire body suddenly burst out with golden divine light. In the next moment, a four-headed divine dragon that was more than 100,000 feet long appeared, covering the sky and the sun. It looked down at the sky, and its demonic aura almost broke through the imprisonment of the supreme weapon. Fortunately, Jun Haoyin immediately made a move at the critical moment, which stabilized the situation. However, at this moment, Demon King Jiao's demonic body also collided with his body. Dong. Jun Haoyin's expression changed. His internal organs were actually trembling. Demon King Jiao's attack just now almost broke through his defense. This was already a move that was close to the level of an Emperor Realm powerhouse. Countless people watched the scene in front of them with their hearts in turmoil. At the same time, it was also at this moment that Jun Haoyin shrunk the immortal bell and completely let go of its defense. Demon King Jiao obviously saw this scene and immediately swooped down again. This time he wanted to kill Jun Haoyin. However, Jun Haoyin was fearless. He used the last of his strength to communicate with the immortal bell again. In an instant the bell rang again. This time, Demon King Jiao no longer had the protection of his supreme weapon. Dong. The sound of the immortal bell shook the heavens. An incomparably vast and majestic aura directly descended on Demon King Jiao's body. At this moment, cracks began to appear on his demonic body. This was an attack that belonged to the supreme weapon, and it was also Jun Haoyin's final attack. It surpassed all the previous attacks and completely shattered everything about Demon King Jiao. At this moment, in the eyes of countless people, the heavenly dragon directly shattered, and even Demon King Jiao's primordial spirit turned into nothingness. Chapter 207. A scarlet rain of blood fell from the void, dyeing the entire world red. Everyone looked up at the sky. Their faces turned pale when they saw this scene. At this moment there was no one left alive in the sky. The three holy lords of the eastern wilderness and the demon clan had all disappeared. Even Demon King Jiao, who was the most powerful among them, had been reduced to the point where his primordial spirit had been reduced to ashes. The blood rain and golden scales that were falling from the sky were proof that he had once existed in this world. At the end of the sky, Jun Haoyin stood alone. He looked down at the countless people below him, displaying his peerless strength and dominance. At this moment he was like a supreme emperor who could suppress the world and sweep away all the supreme existences who despised imperial power. After this battle, regardless of whether it was the younger generation or those who had been famous for a long time, they all held Jun Haoyin in awe. In this world, unparalleled strength was the only way to intimidate everyone. And in this battle, Jun Haoyin had displayed his strength to the world. At this moment, he had already killed several of the most powerful cultivators of the five major forces. At this moment, the people who were left were just a bunch of mobs. Even the supreme weapon had fled in fear. What could these people do? At this moment, Jun Haoyin also slowly turned his gaze to the lucky survivors. But, feeling Jun Haoyin's gaze, the people of the five major forces suddenly felt their scalps go numb. It was as if they were being stared at by an extremely ferocious demon. At this moment they were extremely fearful of Jun Haoyin. They were afraid that Jun Haoyin would kill them if they did not agree with him. After all, the holy son of Hao Tian had mercilessly killed even the holy lords. Moreover, the elders and disciples of the various factions were probably like ants in the eyes of the holy son of Hao Tian. In the face of such a powerful Jun Haoyin, they did not dare to resist. Even their leader, the holy lord, had died. What kind of storm could they stir up? Thinking of this, the remaining members of the five major forces could only lower their heads under Jun Haoyin's gaze and await Jun Haoyin's execution. However, Jun Haoyin looked at them without any change in his expression. As usual, he was as calm as an ancient well. Killing 5 Holy Lord-level existences in succession didn't seem to affect him in the slightest. It was as if he had done something extremely strange. Holy Son of Haoyin, we hope that Lord Holy Sun can show mercy and spare our lives. Under Jun Haoyin's domineering gaze, one of the supreme elders of the Green Cloud Holy Ground could not help but speak up. At this moment he did not have the bearing of a Holy Land elder at all. His attitude was extremely humble and even his voice was trembling slightly. In the face of death, how many people could maintain a calm state of mind? With the current strength of the Langya Holy Land, they could easily wipe out the remaining 5 forces in one fell swoop. Everyone at the scene believed that the Holy Son of Haoyin, who had a supreme weapon, definitely had the strength to do so. However, when Jun Haoyin heard the Supreme Elder's words, he smiled faintly. The main culprit has been executed. As for how to deal with you, I, the Holy Sun, have no say in it. After saying this, Jun Haoyin looked at Tao Xian who was at the side. After all, Tao Xian was the true leader of the Langya Holy Land. When Tao Xian heard Jun Haoyan's words, he looked at him in surprise. Then he understood what Jun Haoyan meant. In this battle, the Langya Holy Land had displayed unparalleled strength that was enough to shock the entire eastern wilderness. However, Tao Xian knew that this was just on the surface. The Langya Holy Land was only strong on the outside but weak on the inside. Jun Haoyan's strength, which had been enhanced by external items, would soon disappear. At that time he would not be as powerful as he was now. Moreover, although the supreme weapons of the three holy lands had fled in fear, they had spirits. Sooner or later they would take the initiative to return to the Holy Land. A holy land with a supreme weapon would be very difficult to deal with. It would be even more difficult for the Langya Holy Land to deal with the two demon clans in the southern region. Although these forces no longer had their strongest cultivators, they still had their hidden trump cards. Moreover, everyone in the Langya Holy Land was injured to varying degrees. If they rashly continued to fight, it would backfire and put everyone in the eastern wilderness in danger. Of course, the most important point was that other than Jun Haoyan, no one else could control the fairy bell. Thinking of this, Tao Xian nodded slightly and looked at the people from the five forces. You wanted to destroy the Langya Holy Land. It is impossible not to pursue this matter. Although the main culprit has been punished, this matter is not over yet. The Langya Holy Land will definitely issue a verdict to the five forces in the future, but not now. You can go back and wait. Tao Xian actually allowed the people from the five forces to go back first. However, he did not say that he would not pursue this matter. He just had not thought it through yet. Especially for the three holy lands, their roots were in the eastern wilderness. Even if they wanted to escape, where could they go? As for the southern region demon clans, they did not care at all. Whether it was the nine-headed serpent dragon or the nine-tailed fox king, their roots were in the divine demon continent. Now that the two strongest were dead, the remaining ones could not do anything at all. To kill them or not to kill them was just a matter of thought. Moreover, Tao Xian's decision represented another layer of meaning. He wanted the five forces to go back, although he had not announced what the punishment would be. However, in reality, everyone knew that if they were allowed to go back, they would not be eradicated. It could be said that to a certain extent, it reduced the panic in their hearts and calmed them down. Thank you, the Holy Lord of Langya. Thank you, the Holy Son of Haoyan. Thank you, the Holy Lord of Langya. Thank you, the Holy Son of Haoyan. After hearing Tao Xian's words, the people from the five forces were overjoyed. Some of the primordial soul dharma powerhouses even wanted to kneel down on the spot. To them this was a chance at life. How could they not be excited? After thanking Tao Xian and Jun Haoyan, they hurriedly left without looking back. As for the corpses of the three holy lords and the two demon overlords, no one cared about them. No matter how strong you were when you were alive and how many countries came to congratulate you, as long as you were dead, there would be nothing left. A person's death was like an extinguished lamp. In this world where the strong preyed on the weak, it was extremely true. Jun Haoyan looked at the scene in front of him and did not feel anything. This was because many people had died at his hands. It was not the first time he had seen this. At this moment, Tao Xian appeared beside him. The latter seemed to have sensed something and immediately looked in another direction. It was where the other forces were watching the battle. All the people from the major forces were trembling in fear. Some of them even tensed up. They were really afraid. They were afraid that the Holy Son of Haoyan would not be enough after clearing out the five forces. He even wanted to target them. The Holy Son of Haoyan now was truly unstoppable. Translator, Nioibo Studio Editor. Nioibo Studio. At this moment, everyone's heart was extremely complicated. This was especially so for those who did not think highly of the holy ground of Langya. It was not that they did not have a shadow behind the five forces. It was just that they did not officially participate. Now, the Holy Son of Haoyan's gaze seemed to have seen through everything. It made people feel a little guilty. However, for the other forces who did not participate in this matter, they were not very afraid. Even so, because of Jun Haoyan, they could not help but be surprised. Jun Haoyan's performance was too terrifying. He was almost invincible. No one present was a match for him. Without the Holy Son of Haoyan's permission, no one present dared to leave. It would be over if they were targeted by the Holy Son of Haoyan. Some people even sighed at this time. Because of the rise of the Holy Son of Haoyan, the Langya holy ground seemed to have reached another peak. The most important thing was that the Holy Son of Haoyan had not yet become a great person. If he really grew up in the future, how powerful would he be? As for whether the Holy Son of Haoyan would die halfway, almost no one thought so. After all, the holy son of Haoyin had a supreme weapon in his hands. With that invincible supreme weapon protecting him, there was probably no one in the entire Wuxian continent who could threaten his life. Therefore, when Jun Haoyin looked over, everyone no longer looked at him as a young genius like before. Instead, they looked at him as a true powerhouse who placed Jun Haoyin on the same level as himself. Or even an even higher status. Everyone. At this time, Jun Haoyin opened his mouth and attracted everyone's attention once again. His purple robe fluttered in the wind, and there was not a speck of dust on it. He stood tall and straight like an emperor, not like someone who had experienced a great battle. At this moment he was like the most eye-catching person in the world, the true protagonist of the world. In a month, the Langya Holy Ground will be holding a grand event. I hope that everyone can come. Once this was said, everyone present was stunned. What did the Langya Holy Ground mean by holding a grand event? Everyone was deep in thought, trying to figure out the meaning of this sentence. When the Jade Lake's sacred leader heard this, a smile appeared on her face. She then spoke slowly. All right, the Linglong Holy Ground will definitely pay a visit. After seeing the Linglong sacred leader's attitude, everyone did not hesitate. They all said that they would pay a visit in a month's time and bring gifts. After the Linglong sacred leader's words, most of the people present understood the meaning of Jun Haoyin's words. The Langya Holy Ground was holding a grand event to tell the entire Wuxian continent. After the great battle, the Langya Holy Ground was completely different from before. Even the alliance of the five forces had failed. They were completely defeated by the Langya Holy Ground. At this moment, the Langya Holy Ground had surpassed the past and reached a new peak. Because of the Holy Son of Haoyin and the invincible supreme weapon in his hands, the Langya Holy Ground had reached the peak again. It might be the most powerful force after the Kunlun Holy Ground. Moreover, the Langya Holy Ground had also revealed another point. The Langya Holy Ground could let bygones be bygones for those who came to attend the grand event. They could even rely on the Holy Ground. One had to know that Jun Haoyin had just defeated the five experts. That was an earth-shattering power. No one dared to go against the Langya Holy Ground at this moment. Everyone knew that this grand event was not as simple as a gathering. It was also a show to the other forces that the Langya Holy Ground was no longer a force that could be easily bullied. It was like a newly established dynasty that had to receive tributes from foreign countries and the 9 states to congratulate them. It was a flourishing time. The Langya Holy Ground needed a chance like this to influence the entire Wuxian continent once again. And all of this was because of one name, Haoyin Holy Son. After everyone understood this, they all declared that they would attend the grand event. At that time, the power of the Langya Holy Ground would be displayed. Gu Yuehuang stood beside the Jade Lake's sacred leader. She was in a daze. One had to know that the Holy Son of Jiang Haoyin was only competing with the younger generation a few months ago. How long had it been since then? Was this the true meaning of a prodigy? Compared to the Holy Son of Jiang Haoyin, she was indeed much weaker. Yuehuang, if you have the chance in the future, interact more with the Holy Son of Jiang Haoyin. At this moment, the Jade Lake's sacred leader's voice appeared in Gu Yuehuang's mind. Gu Yuehuang was slightly surprised. She didn't quite understand. In the future, this person might be on the same level as the Linglong sacred leader. When she heard this, Gu Yuehuang was completely stunned. She couldn't believe it. One had to know that although the Jade Lake's sacred leader didn't compete with the other forces, she was actually very powerful. A female sacred leader was only second to the Linglong sacred leader in terms of reputation. She had extremely high standards. And now, the Jade Lake sacred leader was comparing the Holy Son of Jiang Haoyin to the Linglong sacred leader. This evaluation was extremely shocking. The Linglong sacred leader had become famous 3,000 years ago. She was known as the most powerful prodigy in the past 50,000 years. Even the top prodigy of the eastern wilderness 30,000 years ago, Bai Minghan, the Holy Son of Langya, couldn't compare to her. This was also recognized by the entire Wuxian continent. No one would deny the Linglong sacred leader's power. In the Jade Lake sacred leader's eyes, the Holy Son of Jiang Haoyin was the next Linglong sacred leader. Perhaps he was the only Holy Son of Jiang Haoyin. Is he really that powerful? Gu Yuehuang was deep in thought. She originally thought that the gap between her and the Holy Son of Jiang Haoyin was only a little bit. Now, it seemed like the gap between heaven and earth was insurmountable. Let's go. It's time for us to go back. Let's see how the Langya sacred ground will be in a month's time, the Jade Lake sacred leader said again. She sighed in her heart. It had been a long time since she had seen such an outstanding young man like the Holy Son of Jiang Haoyin. After the Jade Lake sacred leader left, Everyone around the Langya sacred ground prepared to leave. Everyone bowed slightly to Tao Xian and Jun Haoyin as a sign of respect. Then they turned into flowing light and disappeared. All kinds of auras dissipated between heaven and earth. After the period it took an incense stick to burn, the entire place fell silent once again. And the Langya sacred ground returned to its original state. Boom. At that moment, all kinds of divine light appeared around Jun Haoyin. The 18 Buddhist Bantis behind him all disappeared. A Sarira appeared in his body. The 18 Buddhist Bantis engraved on it also disappeared. This meant that the small Thunder Temple's treasure had temporarily lost its effect. And Jun Haoyin returned to the second level of the primordial soul Dharma power. Although Jun Haoyin yearned for the power of the fifth level of the immortal realm, he knew what his true cultivation level was. Moreover, he was very confident. He believed that it wouldn't be long before he broke through to the immortal realm and became a powerful figure. Chapter 208. Jun Haoyin had only used a little more than a year to cultivate from a small martial artist in the Qi condensation realm to a powerful martial artist in the transcendence realm. This speed could be said to be unprecedented. In the previous battle, because of the relic, he had experienced the feeling of an immortal realm martial artist in advance. That feeling made him very confident that he would not be able to reach that realm soon. In the 3,000 worlds, any martial artist whose cultivation had reached the immortal realm, they were all known as eternal giants. This was because after reaching the immortal realm, a martial artist's lifespan could be extended to more than 10,000 years. Anyone who reached the immortal realm's 5 realms could be called an immortal giant. This was an existence that had completely broken away from the boundaries of mortals and was not human. The level of one's life had increased by a level. At this moment, the relic's effect had already disappeared, and Jun Haoyin's strength had already recovered to the second level of the transcendence realm. After losing that power, Jun Haoyin did not feel any reluctance. From the beginning to the end, Jun Haoyin had clearly warned himself that this power was only borrowed for a while and did not belong to him at all. He did not lose himself in this external power. Naturally, Tao Xian also felt the change in Jun Haoyin's aura. He knew that this was probably the end of that external power's time. However, after Jun Haoyin's immortal realm aura disappeared, Jun Haoyin's aura instantly returned to the second level of the transcendence realm. When he saw Jun Haoyin's true cultivation, Tao Xian was stunned again. Thinking of Jun Haoyin's cultivation speed, Tao Xian could not help but sigh in his heart. Such a terrifying cultivation speed would probably shock the entire continent. Back then, when I made you great heaven's holy son, this was the wisest decision of my life. At this moment, Tao Xian looked at Jun Haoyin with a gratified smile on his face. The holy son of Haoyin was like a god descending from the heavens in this battle that threatened to wipe out a sect. His aura suppressed the entire area, and he killed 5 holy lords in succession. His unparalleled elegance had completely stolen the limelight from the holy lord of Langya and Tao Xian. But regarding this, Dao Yin did not have a trace of dissatisfaction in his heart. Because Haoyin Holy Son's performance was even more outstanding, it proved how good Tao Xian's judgment was. You flatter me, Holy Lord. I'm just doing what I should do as the Holy Son of Langya. Hearing this, Jun Haoyin was neither arrogant nor impatient. This time, the Langya sacred ground did not want to call him out even at the risk of having their sect destroyed. Jun Haoyin naturally took note of this friendship and remembered it in his heart. If others respect me, I will respect them tenfold. The Holy Lord of Langya treated him with sincerity. He, Jun Haoyin, was naturally not an ungrateful person. Hearing Jun Haoyin's words, Tao Xian smiled with satisfaction. With Jun Haoyin's attitude in this battle, it would not be long before the Langya sacred ground, led by Jun Haoyin, took another step towards greater glory. Then Jun Haoyin and Tao Xian slowly turned around and looked at the Langya sacred ground disciples behind them. When they saw Jun Haoyin's gaze, all the Langya sacred ground disciples, including the elders and the various temple masters, bowed to Jun Haoyin. Greetings, Holy Son. Greetings, Holy Son. Greetings, Holy Son. Countless people spoke in unison like a tsunami. Everyone was very, very pious. At this moment, Jun Haoyin's status in the Langya sacred ground had reached the highest point. In terms of popularity, he was not inferior to the Holy Lord of Langya and Tao Xian. He might even surpass them. This was a symbol of spirituality. Even if Jun Haoyin announced in public that he would take over the position of the sacred leader, perhaps no one would choose to reject him. Unparalleled strength was the only standard in this world. although Jun Haoyan's strength had not reached the immortal realm. But they firmly believed that with the Holy Sun's talent, it was only a matter of time before he became an eternal giant. When Jun Haoyan heard their words, he smiled and gestured for everyone to stand up. Now the crisis in the Langya sacred ground had been completely resolved. Then Jun Haoyan, Tao Xian, and the elders and temple masters of the Langya sacred ground walked toward the interior of the Langya sacred ground. The results of this battle would soon spread throughout the entire Wuxian continent and even to other continents. And the Langya sacred ground was going to organize the Langya sacred ground grand event, which would cause the Langya sacred ground to be despised by everyone again. And because of what had happened today, the Langya sacred ground had an unprecedentedly strong cohesion. Now what the Langya sacred ground needed to do was to completely stand at the top. Divine Monster Continent, Nine-Headed Divine Dragon Clan. There was a demonic aura here, and Haoyan's vitality was vibrating. It was extremely terrifying. Tens of thousands of black sacred mountains joined together, looking as if there was no end to them. And on top of these black mountains, there was a temple covered in golden divine light. It was 9 floors tall. Countless rays of light hung down from it, looking sacred and majestic. The place in front of them was one of the strongest forces in the Divine Monster Continent. The temple floating in the void was called the Nine Heavens Temple, and it was the headquarters of the Nine-Headed Divine Dragon Clan in the Divine Monster Continent. In the Nine Heavens Temple, every floor was occupied by members of the Nine-Headed Divine Dragon Clan. Every one of them was extremely powerful. At that moment, a golden ray of light suddenly appeared, shuttling back and forth among the tens of thousands of black sacred mountains. Not long after, the golden ray of light rushed to the highest floor of the temple. This was a majestic hall, and it was engraved with all kinds of ancient and complex characters of the demon clan. The hall was tens of thousands of feet tall, and it shot straight into the void. Stars revolved around it, and endless starlight hung down. And above the hall, a statue of the Nine-Headed Divine Dragon Clan stood, soaring in the 9 heavens, and it was extremely powerful. Even an undying realm expert would be suppressed with a single glance. Legend had it that the Nine-Headed Divine Dragon Clan's ancestor had personally carved it, and the ancestor of the Nine-Headed Divine Dragon Clan was also a supreme existence. And that golden ray of light directly bypassed this place and rushed to the front of the hall. Then the golden light dissipated and a middle-aged man walked out. He looked very majestic, and he actually had some similarities to Demon King Jiao. In particular, the aura that he exuded was extremely majestic, and he had reached the peak of the undying realm. But such an existence actually knelt down in the hall and kowtowed. "Greetings to the ancestor, I have something to report." His voice was very loud and he was very respectful. Because the person he was about to meet was the strongest ancestor of the Nine-Headed Divine Dragon Clan. He was an ancient existence known as one of the top 10 experts in the Divine Monster Continent, and he was extremely terrifying. "Enter." It was also at this moment that an old voice sounded in the hall, as if it could penetrate layers of space and reach the heavens. The middle-aged man immediately kowtowed again, and then pushed the door open and entered. The hall was very large and spacious, and people standing here were like ants. The pillars in the hall were like stone pillars that supported the sky, and they were indomitable. And at the end of the hall, there was an ancestor who was dozens of meters tall sitting upright. His golden eyes seemed to be able to see through everything. The majesty that exuded from his body could even make the entire world tremble. "Speak." The giant-like ancestor spoke again. His eyes were like the sun looking down on everything. Even the middle-aged man who had reached the half-step emperor realm seemed to be unable to bear it. The middle-aged man knelt down again and prostrated himself on the ground. Ancestor Ao Liang was killed in the martial god continent. Ao Liang was the real name of Demon King Jiao. And just as the middle-aged man finished speaking, the ancestor who was sitting on the throne stood up directly. For a moment, the entire 9 Heavens Temple shook, as if a natural disaster had descended. Chapter 2, Heaven's 5 Decrements. A vast majesty suppressed everything, as if the wrath of the heavens had descended. At this moment, the entire 9 Heavens Temple was constantly shaking, and all kinds of lightning fell from the void. Seeing this scene, all the clansmen of the 9-Headed Divine Dragon Clan were shocked, and in the next moment, they directly knelt on the ground. This terrifying and peerless pressure was like a heavenly tribulation, causing their faces to turn pale and their bodies to tremble. A moment later, all the clansmen of the 9-Headed Divine Dragon Clan flew out of 9 Heavens Temple. They knelt down in the void, begging for mercy from the 9-Headed Divine Dragon Clan's ancestor. "What's going on? Why did the ancestor suddenly get angry? The ancestor has been in seclusion for thousands of years. What exactly happened to make him so angry? What is it? This is the first time I've seen the ancestor get angry in thousands of years. All the clansmen of the nine-headed divine dragon clan knelt down and shouted in their hearts in confusion. The nine-headed divine dragon clan was one of the great clans of the heavenly monster continent. Once the ancestor got angry, the entire continent would naturally be shaken. No one could withstand the ancestor's anger. At this moment, in the highest hall of Nine Heavens Temple, the ancestor of the nine-headed divine dragon clan looked down at the middle-aged man below, his eyes filled with boundless anger. Speak, what's going on? As the ancestor of the nine-headed divine dragon clan, he was also one of the 10 great masters of the heavenly monster continent. He had been like this for tens of thousands of years. He always carried the pressure of a master. The heavenly monster continent was ranked in the top 20 of the 3,000 worlds. As one of the 10 great masters of the heavenly monster continent, his strength had reached the legendary Emperor realm. In the heavenly monster continent, he was known as the Nine-Headed Emperor. He was an Emperor realm master, stronger than ordinary emperors. When an emperor got angry, it was true that mountains and rivers would collapse and mulberry fields would turn into oceans. Ao Liang, also known as Demon King Jiao, was one of the favorite descendants of the nine-headed divine dragon clan's ancestor. As the ancestor of the nine-headed divine dragon clan, he had countless descendants and thousands of direct descendants. However, Demon King Jiao was the most favored descendant of the nine-headed emperor. He had always valued this descendant of Demon King Jiao very much. Otherwise, he wouldn't have sent him to the martial god continent. In ancient times, the martial god continent was ranked much higher than the heavenly monster continent. Although the martial god continent had declined now, there must still be many big secrets hidden in it, which was also coveted by many worlds. Now, Demon King Jiao, the most favored descendant of the nine-headed emperor, was killed. How could he not be furious? Below, the middle-aged man felt the terrifying pressure emanating from the nine-headed emperor and his body trembled. He then told the emperor everything he had learned from the martial god continent. Liang died at the hands of Langya, holy land of the martial god continent? After hearing the middle-aged man's words, the nine-headed emperor suddenly frowned. Today, Langya Holy Land was only a small holy land of the human race. However, more than 100,000 years ago, the Lord of Langya was a famous figure in the 3,000 worlds. In the end, he was an existence that ascended to the god realm. Even the nine-headed emperor was a little afraid of such an existence. After all, he was a real existence. Even after so many years, the Supreme's remaining power was still there. Yes, it is said that he joined forces with De Yun of the Green Hill Fox clan to destroy the Langya Holy Land. In the end, they were killed instead. The middle-aged man spoke again. He did not know who exactly killed the nine-headed divine dragon, so he could only say so. De Yun was the fairy fox monarch. The Green Hill Fox clan and the nine-headed divine dragon clan had been on good terms for generations. When they joined forces, they were one of the 2 great clans that should not be provoked in the heavenly monster continent. Does the Green Hill Fox clan know about this? The nine-headed emperor asked again. He was also a little cautious when it came to the inheritance of the Lord of Langya. Although the Lord of Langya had ascended more than 100,000 years ago, his remaining power was still there. They already know, and the nine-tailed emperor's intentions are clear. A debt of blood must be paid in blood. He had already received the news before this. In that case, we, the nine-headed divine dragon clan, cannot back down. The nine-headed sovereign opened his mouth. His golden eyes shone with golden light, making him look extremely terrifying. If the nine-headed divine dragon clan and the Green Hill Fox clan joined forces, it would be very easy for them to destroy a human holy land that only had one supreme artifact. Then what does the old ancestor mean? The middle-aged man spoke and asked immediately. He was Ao Liang's elder brother and the clan leader of the nine-headed divine dragon clan. But in fact, all the decisions of the nine-headed divine dragon clan had to be made by the nine-headed divine dragon old ancestor. Of course, we must take revenge, but the time is not yet right. The nine-headed emperor said again. He would take revenge, but he did not act immediately. Hearing this, the clan leader of the nine-headed divine dragon clan frowned slightly. He knew that his old ancestor had always been extremely protective. In the heavenly monster continent, he was even more infamous and terrifying. Now that his favorite descendant had been killed, why did he not want to take revenge immediately? The nine-headed sovereign seemed to have seen through his thoughts and sat back down on his throne. The martial god continent is supported by many supreme marks. It is easy to leave but very difficult to enter. It is almost impossible for existences above the Emperor realm to descend. However, this Emperor has already calculated that in less than 3 to 5 months, there will definitely be a change in the martial god continent, and the 5 decay of heaven and man will descend again. As soon as this was said, the clan leader of the 9-headed divine dragon clan trembled violently. The 5 decay of heaven and man was one of the most terrifying tribulations in the 3,000 worlds. Any world that could give birth to the 5 decay of heaven and man was ranked in the top 10 at the beginning of the world's existence. The martial god continent used to be ranked in the top 10 of the 3,000 worlds, so there would be a great tribulation every once in a while. However, this tribulation did not mean the destruction of the world. Instead, it meant rebirth and transformation. If the tribulation was successfully passed, then the great world would be shrouded in a supreme aura and blessed by the god realm. Then, many terrifying powerhouses would be born in a short period of time, and their ranking in the 3,000 worlds would rise rapidly. However, if they failed to pass the tribulation, they would continue to weaken. The martial god continent, which used to be ranked in the top 10 during ancient times, had been weakened to this day because it failed to pass the 5 decay of heaven and man 3 times. It was also because of this that there were not many supreme marks. The 5 decay of heaven and man could also be understood as the tribulation of the great 1,000 worlds. A great world like the heavenly monster continent did not rank in the top 10 during ancient times. Therefore, there was no great tribulation of the 5 decay of heaven and man. However, such a great tribulation was not a good thing. Because once the 5 decay of heaven and man happened, the entire martial god continent would be extremely weak, and the world barrier would completely disappear. At that time, the martial god continent would be in real danger. Chapter 209. When the 5 signs of heaven's decay occurred in a plane, various calamities would occur. At the same time, various ancient secrets would appear. For example, great tombs of powerhouses, ancient ruins, or even supreme inheritances. Countless terrifying inheritances would appear, and there might even be inheritances of gods. At that time, the entire continent's world energy would skyrocket. At the same time, countless powerful peerless geniuses would suddenly appear on the continent. With so many heroes competing, the entire continent would fall into chaos. The appearance of these ruins and inheritances would naturally be a great fortune for the martial god continent. If the martial god continent could absorb all these inheritances and ruins, the entire continent would usher in earth-shattering changes. Using these inheritances and ruins, the strength of the martial god continent would rapidly increase, and its strength would increase by 100 times or even 1,000 times. The number of cultivators would also increase, and the strength of the powerhouses would also increase. In the end, the entire martial god continent's ranking in the 3,000 worlds would rapidly rise. As the number of cultivators increased and the powerhouses became stronger, the world's ranking would also begin to rise. Unfortunately, when the 5 signs of heaven's decay occurred, the world barrier would disappear. At that time, cultivators from other worlds could enter the martial god continent at will. And the great fortune of the martial god continent would naturally be snatched by the powerhouses of other worlds. Although the 5 signs of heaven's decay was a great fortune, it was also a great calamity. When the world barrier disappeared, the imprint left behind by the Supreme Being would be affected. At that time, even the supreme powerhouses of the Emperor realm would descend on the martial god continent. After all, no one would be able to resist the temptation of the Supreme Being's inheritance appearing. Even the top 10 worlds of the 3,000 worlds would not be able to resist sending people to snatch the supreme opportunities to replenish their own world's world energy. Therefore, the 9-headed emperor had such an idea. When the martial god continent experienced the 5 signs of heaven's decay, the world barrier would disappear, and the Supreme Being's imprint would lose its effect. He would directly descend on the Langya Holy Land and destroy it. At the same time, he could also snatch all kinds of opportunities and fortunes in the martial god continent, increasing the strength of the 9-headed divine dragon clan again. After knowing this, the 9-headed divine dragon clan leader became so excited. If they could obtain great fortune in the martial god continent this time, their strength would rapidly increase. The strength of the 9-headed mystical flood dragon clan would increase rapidly, and their status in the divine demon continent would rise again. They might even become the strongest clan in the divine demon continent. Ancestor, is what you said true? Hearing the 9-headed sovereign's words, the 9-headed divine dragon clan leader's face was filled with excitement. He had been stuck in the half-step emperor realm for who knew how long, and with his talent, he would never be able to break through to the emperor realm. But now, the martial god continent's Deva's decay was about to descend. This was simply a great opportunity for him. As long as he obtained a supreme opportunity on martial god continent, he would be able to break through to the Emperor realm. At that time, it would not be a problem for him to traverse the 3,000 worlds. One had to know that even in the top-ranked black-yellow continent, an Emperor realm master was a rare peerless master. The Emperor realm. His vital signs had surpassed everything in the past and reached a new height. This was a supreme realm that countless martial artists wanted to reach but could never reach. That's right, so you have to make arrangements for this matter. You can't be careless. As for Patriarch Qing Qiu, I'll talk to him personally. When the time comes, our two clans will join forces and will be able to reap more benefits from the chaotic martial god continent. The nine-headed sovereign spoke again. His golden eyes flickered as plans emerged one after another. As for those ants in Langya Holy Land, I'll personally destroy them. Demon King Jiao, his favorite descendant, had died at the hands of Langya Holy Land. Then he had to destroy Langya Holy Land to avenge Demon King Jiao. Yes, grandson obeys. The nine-headed divine dragon clan leader said as he bowed and slowly left the hall. He had to make arrangements for everything, especially for him to break through to the Saint Emperor realm. Because he knew very well that whether he could become an Emperor realm master or not depended on this. At the same time, the same scene was happening in the other continents of the 3,000 worlds. In the Heavenly Monster Continent, the Heavenly Paradise Continent, the Immortal Cultivation Continent, the Heavenly Dragon Continent, the Divine Phoenix Continent, and so on. In this universe, ancient existences had awakened in various worlds, giving out orders one after another. Every world wanted a piece of the pie to strengthen themselves or their subordinates. All kinds of ancient existences were restless, waiting for the arrival of the Great Tribulation. As one of the top 10 ancient worlds, the martial god continent was now the weakest. If the 5 decay of the heavens happened in the black-yellow continent, only the other 9 top-ranked worlds would send people there. The other 2,990 great worlds would be difficult to contact because the black-yellow continent was too powerful. Great worlds without a strong foundation would not dare to touch it at all. Just like that, the entire universe was quietly changing. Outside the martial god continent, countless powerful auras were constantly shuttling back and forth, as if waiting for something. As for the people in the martial god continent, they did not know about the arrival of the Great Tribulation. Langya Holy Land, Langya Sacred Realm. This was the place where the Holy Master and Supreme Elder of Langya Holy Land were in seclusion. The world's Yuan Qi was extremely rich and amazing. At this moment, Tao Xian and the Supreme Elders were gathered together. Below them was an endless amount of primordial stones. At a glance, there were hundreds of billions of primordial stones. This was only 1/10 of the source stones accumulated in the entire Langya Sacred Realm. The source stones, which were extremely precious to countless rogue cultivators, were placed here like ordinary stones. Of course, these source stones did not belong to the Langya Holy Land. They were compensation from the other 3 holy lands. Tao Xian had punished them. Now, even the Holy Master of the 3 holy lands had fallen. Faced with the request of the Langya Holy Land, they naturally did not dare to refuse. They had almost used up all their wealth to satisfy the Langya Holy Land. Then, the Holy Lord of Langya and Tao Xian also announced that they would not pursue the matter of besieging the Langya Holy Land in the future. At this moment, all the source stones were piled up here, placed under the Langya Mountain River diagram. It's about time. Whether he can break through to the 4th level of the Dharmalaksana realm in a month depends on these source stones. At this moment, Tao Xian spoke, looking at Jun Haoyan in the picture scroll. After dealing with the aftermath of the battle, Tao Xian discussed with the Supreme Elders. They wanted to help Jun Haoyan break through to the immortal longevity realm in the shortest time possible. They would not hesitate to use the power of the entire Holy Land. Everyone in the Langya Holy Land hoped that Jiang Chen could grow stronger as soon as possible. Moreover, Tao Xian had read the letter of the Lord of Langya. He had a premonition that something big was going to happen in the martial god continent. Although he did not know why, Tao Xian understood it very well. It would be very difficult for him to protect the great Langya Holy Land with his current strength. However, if Jun Haoyan could grow stronger, it would be completely different. Only the 5th level of the Immortal Realm experts could barely activate the power of a supreme weapon. Therefore, Jun Haoyan did not reject Tao Xian's suggestion. He always remembered what Jun Moyo said to him. The martial god continent would face a great calamity. People from various worlds would descend upon the continent. At that time, the 5th level of the Immortal Realm would only be able to protect himself. Therefore, there was only one reason why Jun Haoyan was in danger. He wanted to break through the barrier of the primordial spirit Dharma idol within a month. Become an immortal. Become an eternal giant. Chapter 2, Kunlun's Holy Son. Haoyan, are you ready? At this moment, the voice of the Holy Lord Tao Xian was heard. At this moment, Tao Xian had already prepared all the required yuan stones. Next, he only needed to activate the energy within the yuan stones and channel it into the Langya Mountain and River diagram. In fact, the supreme weapon of the Langya Holy Land, the Langya Mountain and River diagram's greatest use was not for attacking. Its greatest use was to assist in cultivation. Within the Langya Mountain and River diagram, there was a world of its own. There were mountains, rivers, the earth, the sun, the moon, the sea of stars, and endless yuan qi and the laws of heaven and earth. As long as enough energy was channeled in, the effect of the Langya Mountain and River diagram could be activated. After the three Holy Lands had compensated the Langya Holy Land was now rich with yuan stones. With these yuan stones, Tao Xian could activate the terrifying energy within the diagram and channel it all into Jun Haoyan's body, allowing him to improve greatly within a short period of time. He could even break through a few realms. This was not a problem at all. Moreover, under the control of him and the Supreme Elders, this energy would only be more terrifying. Now, the Langya Holy Land could be said to be doing all they could to increase Jun Haoyan's cultivation at all costs. After hearing Tao Xian's words, Jun Haoyan nodded and slowly closed his eyes. He did not choose to reject Tao Xian's gift. The current him had an extremely strong foundation and did not need to accumulate more. Previously, Jun Haoyan had entered the immortal state in advance because of the 18 Supremacy's great salvation immeasurable Sarira. Although he had not truly comprehended it, his physical body and primordial spirit were enough to completely control it. At this moment, what he lacked was that unparalleled power. In that case, let's begin. Seeing Jun Haoyan nod, Tao Xian turned his head and said to the Supreme Elders. After a while, all the Supreme Elders sat cross-legged on the ground. Waves of vast true vitality surged out of their bodies and channeled into the endless yuan stones. Every Supreme Elder performed a series of powerful hand seals and channeled the energy in their bodies into the yuan stones. Bus. In an instant, the entire Langya Holy Land shone brightly and a boundless pressure swept out. In the next moment, all the yuan stones disappeared and turned into an extremely pure energy. Like a vast divine light, it formed the shape of a heavenly dragon. Such a terrifying amount of yuan stones was a huge sum of money even for the Holy Land. At this moment, the amount of energy gathered from so many essence stones was shocking to the eye. It could even turn a barren land into a cultivation holy land with dense yuan qi. Even an immortal state elite could not possess so many yuan stones. In the next moment, all the energy surged into the Langya Mountain River illustration. At this moment, Jun Haoyan could only feel that the yuan qi around him had become extremely dense. It had even condensed into liquid. Moreover, the yuan qi was endless. It seemed that he could never absorb far. Then, without hesitation, he channeled his energy and activated the demonic heaven-devouring skill. Then, the figure of a demon appeared behind him. The demon seemed to have walked out of hell and opened its mouth to swallow. In the next moment, the endless yuan qi was absorbed by the demon. Rumble. At this moment, within the space of the Langya Mountain River illustration, endless lightning flashed and the mountains and rivers shook. The entire world was rumbling. At this moment, Jun Haoyan was absorbing the yuan qi in the void crazily. The energy in his body was also growing stronger. At this moment, his body was surrounded by endless yuan qi. It was as if his entire body was about to be upgraded. The golden ancient mammoths were also roaring continuously. It was as if they had come from the primordial era, suppressing the world. The ancient mammoths in Jun Haoyan's body were awakening crazily at this moment. Vast and terrifying energy swept through every corner of his body. His primordial spirit was sitting cross-legged under the Bodhi tree. With the continuous influx of energy, the tiny primordial spirit that had just grown to 2 inches and 9 inches was also affected. It kept growing taller. This was a change in the essence of the primordial spirit. Once it succeeded, it meant that Jun Haoyan was constantly becoming stronger. At the same time, his physical body and true yuan were also increasing at a terrifying rate. The furnace that was condensed in his dantian was burning fiercely, refining all kinds of superpowers. It could be said that Jun Haoyan's strength was increasing crazily. Within this period of time, he might really have the possibility of breaking through to the immortal state. It's effective. However, the energy required for the Holy Sun to break through is too terrifying. It's more than 10 times that of an ordinary primordial spirit Dharma power. one of the supreme elders said after a moment of contemplation. The others nodded one after another. The greater the commotion caused by Jun Haoyin's cultivation, the more shocked they were. No wonder he could be ranked as the strongest prodigy in Eastern Wilderness. Who could compare with such a terrifying foundation? If that's the case, it's certain that the Holy Sun will become the strongest in Eastern Wilderness, a grand elder said. A great elder said. Because the power in Jun Haoyin's body was enough to make him feel terrified. Not necessarily. It said that the one from the Kunlun sacred ground is also very powerful. His talent is even comparable to the Linglong sacred leader. More importantly, during this period of time, I received news that the Holy Sun of Kunlun is condensing a terrifying body constitution. At this moment, another grand elder spoke up. An extremely terrifying body constitution? The Holy Sun of the Chaos sacred ground, He Wujiang, was condensing a terrifying body constitution. What's going on? Another grand elder asked. Now, only the Holy Sun of Kunlun could stop the Holy Sun of Haoyin from becoming the strongest in Eastern Wilderness. It said that the Kunlun sacred ground helped him condense the same body constitution as the Prime of Kunlun, which can suppress the Linglong sacred leader in the future. The Grand Elder said. This was the news he received, and it could be said that it was very true. When the people present heard this, they were all shocked. The same body constitution as the Kunlun the Arch. That was the primogenitor of the Kunlun sacred ground. He achieved Tao in 300,000 years and pushed the Wuxian continent to the top 20 of the 3,000 worlds with his strength alone. It was said that the Kunlun the Arch had an unparalleled body constitution and was a terrifying existence who had conquered the Xinhuang continent. The current Holy Sun of Kunlun was actually condensing the same body constitution as that supreme existence. If he succeeded, wouldn't he be able to completely suppress the Holy Sun of Haoyin? If he grew up, even the Linglong sacred leader would be restricted by him? That was very terrifying. The grand elders lowered their heads and pondered. Don't be distracted. At this moment, Tao Xin's voice sounded. When the grand elders raised their heads to look at the painting, they were all shocked. Chapter 210. At that moment, all the supreme elders turned to look at Jun Haoyin. The scene that happened in the Langya Mountain River diagram made them endlessly shocked. Behind Jun Haoyin, an unparalleled demonic figure stood between heaven and earth. He held 3,000 worlds in his hands and stood proudly. The boundless heaven and earth essence chi in the void rushed madly into Jun Haoyin's body. Jun Haoyin absorbed all the heaven and earth essence chi without wasting a single bit. A peerless demon lord shrouded in demonic chi. Golden chi and blood scattered in all directions. One black, one gold. The two reflected each other and formed a special scene. At that moment, Jun Haoyin's body exuded a godlike aura. All the supreme elders stared at Jun Haoyin with their eyes wide open. They could see that in Jun Haoyin's body, giant elephant seeds were awakening one after another. They carried boundless golden suns on their backs and stepped on a boundless golden hell. There were also 12 demon gods accompanying him. There were also Buddhist venerables chanting Buddhist scriptures in front of him. Countless strange phenomena appeared, making Jun Haoyin look like a god descending to the mortal world. Like a supreme god walking out of a myth, his entire body exuded an unparalleled and shocking brilliance. This time Jun Haoyin was like the son of God. The moment he grew up would be the moment he ruled over the world. What a terrifying power. What kind of power is this? Is the Holy Sun cultivating some terrifying divine power? This is too scary. So many strange phenomena have appeared, and each of them is extraordinary. Each of them can shock the world. At this moment, these phenomenons that are enough to shock the world are all concentrated on the saint. Don't you feel that the Holy Sun's divine body seems to have changed? It's as if it has been upgraded. Could it be that the Holy Sun has evolved into a divine body? At that moment, all the supreme elders looked at Jun Haoyin in disbelief. It was like a dream. They could sense the extraordinariness of the strange phenomenon around Jun Haoyin, and they could clearly sense the intense pressure brought about by Jun Haoyin's physique. At this moment, Jun Haoyin's body was emitting a resplendent light. His entire body seemed to be translucent, and every inch of his flesh was emitting a shocking brilliance. It was as if he was the son of the heavens, a perfect body personally created by the heavens. His mission after coming to this world was to rule the world and suppress the present. His body was like an eternally indestructible star. Nothing in the world could destroy his body. I wonder what realm Haoyin will reach after this round of mutual training. Hearing the words of the supreme elders, the Holy Lord of Langya, Tao Xian slowly said. Naturally, he also thought of the Holy Son of the Kunlun Holy Land. The ambition of the Holy Son of Kunlun was so great that he wanted to condense the same physique as the sovereign of Kunlun. That kind of physique could be said to be invincible even in the trichiliocosm. Thinking of this, Jun Haoyan could not help but sigh. The Kunlun Holy Land was still as powerful as before. Even the Kunlun exquisite tribulation could not shake its foundation. Although the Langya Holy Land's strength was not bad, it was still inferior to the Kunlun Holy Land. Looking at Jun Haoyan, Tao Xian could not help but have a thought. One day in the future, under the leadership of the Holy Son of Haoyan, the Langya Holy Land might be able to replace the Kunlun Holy Land and become the new #1 Holy Land of the human race. However, Tao Xian also knew that it was undoubtedly extremely difficult to achieve this goal. However, as long as the Holy Son of Haoyan could grow, it would definitely be possible. I wonder who will be the #1 in Eastern Wilderness after this round of seclusion. Let's wait and see. I wonder if Haoyan will be able to completely take over the title of Kunlun Holy Son of Eastern Wilderness after this round of seclusion. Thinking of this, Tao Xian could not help but feel a little excited. If the Holy Son of Haoyan overtook the Holy Son of Kunlun, it would also indicate that the Langya Holy Land had taken the first step in suppressing the Kunlun Holy Land. Thinking of this, Tao Xian could not help but ask a few of the Grand Supreme Elders to increase the amount of primordial qi they channeled to Jun Haoyan with all their might. After this round of seclusion, if his strength could reach the immortal longevity realm, the title of #1 in Eastern Wilderness would belong to none other than him. At this moment, in the Langya landscape illustration, Jun Haoyan's primordial spirit had completely grown to a height of 3 inches in his body. This meant that his cultivation had reached the 3rd tier of the Dharma phase primordial spirit, and the ancient mammoths in his body were also crazily awakening. At this level, the ancient mammoths in Jun Haoyan's body had reached 1.2 million. They lined up together and roared in unison. Their roars were unparalleled in the world, especially the hell under their feet. It looked like it was real, and it set off the strength of the ancient mammoths. It also set off Jun Haoyan's supreme status like a real god. However, breaking into the primordial spirit Dharma phase primordial spirit was just the beginning. At this moment, the next step was the most important. Tao Xian could maintain the Langya landscape illustration for a month with all his strength. During this month, Jun Haoyan could advance without any worries. Therefore, at this moment, he did not do anything else but crazily increase his cultivation. Time passed just like this. With every minute and second, Jun Haoyan became stronger than before. Desolate suspended sea, Linglong sacred ground. 9th Heaven Linglong Palace, Supreme Hall. The #1 expert of Eastern Wilderness, Linglong sacred leader, sat on the throne in the void. Beautiful, sacred, majestic, earth-shaking. All kinds of auras emerged from her body, and each of them had a terrifying power. No one knew how powerful Linglong's sacred leader was. Even the other sacred leaders did not know. This guy is really beyond my imagination. At this moment, Linglong's sacred leader spoke, and a smile appeared on her beautiful face. She had just heard the news. Before the battle at Langya's sacred ground, Linglong's sacred leader was not in Wuxian continent. With her ability, it was not a problem for her to travel the 3,000 worlds. However, she did not expect to hear the news as soon as she returned. It was really shocking. Linglong's sacred leader Luo Qingxue was below her. Her face was also full of surprise. It could not be helped. Jun Haoyan's deeds were really earth-shattering. The 3 sacred grounds would not be able to recover without thousands of years. If not for the supreme weapon suppressing them, they would probably be removed from the 7 sacred grounds of the human race. I heard that Langya's sacred ground is going to hold a grand event, and all forces in Wuxian continent are invited to participate, Luo Qingxue said. Luo Qingxue said. What she meant was simple. She wanted to know if the Linglong sacred land would participate in this event. When the time comes, you should go personally. I have more important things to deal with, Linglong's sacred leader said. She did not plan to go to Langya's sacred ground personally. This was because she had a feeling that Wuxian continent's 5 decay was about to descend. Even she had to be prepared. Forget it. When the time comes, you should go with my clone. Perhaps we will ask Hao Tian's holy son for help in the future. However, after saying that, Linglong's sacred leader immediately denied it. Luo Qingxue was shocked by his decision to send his incarnation there. Linglong's sacred leader was the most powerful person in Eastern Wilderness. She did not care about anything, let alone this grand event. However, because of Hao Tian's holy son, she made such a decision. Although it was just a clone, it meant a lot. No one would ignore it. Especially Linglong's sacred leader's words. In the future, she might ask how Tian's holy son for help. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. Luo Qingxue knew how terrifying her master's strength was. The legends that were circulating outside were enough to shock people. She was the most amazing genius in Wuxian continent in the past 50,000 years. In a short time she had reached the immortal realm. Now she was recognized as the most powerful person in Eastern Wilderness by all the warriors. Of course, the entire Wuxian continent knew this. As Linglong's sacred leader's personal disciple, Luo Qingxue naturally knew more about her master. She was very clear that her master's strength had reached a terrifying level. In the future, she might not be able to break through the void and become a supreme god. However, Luo Qingxue had absolute confidence in her master to become a supreme god. In Luo Qingxue's eyes, it was something that countless peerless geniuses could not achieve. If others knew about this, they would definitely be shocked. That was the position of a supreme god. It was not something that could be achieved so easily. Moreover, in Luo Qingxue's eyes, her master had always been domineering. Even a man could not have that kind of aura. Furthermore, with Linglong's sacred leader's pride, almost no man could enter her eyes. However, today Linglong's sacred leader actually said that she might ask Great Heaven's Holy Son for help in the future. How could she be so sure that Great Heaven's Holy Son would definitely rule the world in the future? It should be known that even the person from Kunlun's sacred ground who was about to condense the same supreme body constitution as Kunlun Prime, Linglong's sacred leader did not take him seriously at all. Perhaps in Linglong's sacred leader's eyes, she was already invincible. No matter how strong Kunlun's holy son was, she had no scruples. Even if Kunlun's holy son had condensed the same supreme body constitution, he could not threaten her. That was why Luo Qingxue was shocked by Linglong's sacred leader's evaluation of Great Heaven's holy son. Even someone like her would ask Great Heaven's holy son for help in the future. How powerful would Great Heaven's holy son be in the future? Just as Luo Qingxue was thinking about this, Linglong's sacred leader, who was sitting on the throne, spoke again. "How's the matter that I asked you to do?" Hearing this, Luo Qingxue replied respectfully, "Master, it's almost done. However, Master, is the calamity that you mentioned really coming?" Luo Qingxue asked slowly. She had heard from Linglong's sacred leader that the Wuxian continent was about to face a calamity. According to Linglong's sacred leader's description, in this calamity, even the sacred ground that possessed the supreme weapon would not be spared. That was enough to show how terrifying this calamity was. Linglong's sacred leader's order was for Luo Qingxue to prepare for the calamity in advance. However, Luo Qingxue was very doubtful about the calamity that Linglong's sacred leader had mentioned. Would such a calamity really come? Although it's a calamity, it's also a good opportunity. I've been waiting for this moment. At that moment, Linglong's sacred leader squinted her eyes slightly. Her eyes seemed to see through everything as she looked into the distance. It was as if she could see what was happening in the other great worlds. "Hurry up and get ready. Pass down my orders. Before the Langya Grand Meeting begins, all disciples are not allowed to leave." After saying that, Linglong's sacred leader's figure disappeared. Her aura disappeared from the entire world in an instant. Luo Qingxue bowed slightly and immediately went to prepare. At the same time, the major forces in the Wuxian continent were also preparing something. It was the Tai Grand Meeting that would take place a month later. Almost all the major forces would attend. The Langya sacred ground that had killed 3 sacred leaders and possessed 2 supreme weapons as its foundation. Many forces had secretly called it the first sacred ground of the human race. The Kunlun sacred ground had been too low-key recently. No matter what happened, it did not appear. Under such circumstances, time passed bit by bit. In the blink of an eye, 20 days had passed. At that moment, in the Langya sacred ground, Jun Haoyan sat cross-legged in the Langya mountain river painting. His golden blood aura was no longer vibrating. Instead, it slowly turned from golden to blood red. Although it was only a little, it could still be seen clearly. The reddish blood was as clear as crystal, emitting a dreamy glow. The primordial qi and power contained in it were even more shocking. At that moment, a drop of Jun Haoyan's blood could sink into the river and turn it into a land of destiny. And the creatures in the river would be affected by this drop of blood and directly become spiritual monsters. This was Jun Haoyan's blood. It was almost divine blood. Jun Haoyan's sacred body had already transformed to a certain extent and was beginning to transform into a divine body. However, It was a pity that the amount of energy required to transform into a divine body was too terrifying. So until now, Jun Haoyin had not transformed into a divine body. However, he did not care. Jun Haoyin's current body constitution was not what he wanted to improve. It was his own cultivation. In his dantian, under the 7-treasure Bodhi tree, a small golden primordial spirit sat cross-legged. This small golden primordial spirit had already reached 10 inches and 9 parts. 10 inches and 9 parts meant that Jun Haoyin's primordial spirit had reached the peak of the Transcendence 10th realm. One more step and he would be able to break through to the immortal longevity realm. In 20 days, his primordial spirit had reached the peak of the Transcendence 10th realm from the 2nd realm. This progress not only shocked him but it also shocked Tao Xian and the others. It was really too terrifying. This was the first time they had seen such a cultivation speed. His primordial spirit has reached the peak of the Transcendence 10th realm. He will be able to break through to the immortal realm soon. This is really terrifying, a grand elder said and shook his head. He was a little stunned. He had wanted to say that this was crazy but he swallowed it back. It's a pity that we have used up all of our primordial stones. Moreover, he has reached the limit of his cultivation. Another grand elder said. He looked at the primordial stones that had disappeared below and sighed. The immortal 5th realm was a qualitative change. It was not something that could be compensated with energy. There are still 10 days before the grand meeting begins. Let's let him cultivate on his own. Tao Xian stood up. He knew that there was nothing he could do to help Jun Haoyin. The path of cultivation had to be walked by oneself. Others could not help you all the time. The grand elders nodded, then got up and went to prepare for the grand meeting. The Langya painting of mountains and rivers was still in operation, helping Jun Haoyin to understand heaven and earth and absorb the boundless energy. All kinds of energy poured into his body, not a bit of it going to waste. At this time, Jun Haoyin's primordial mammoths had reached 3,200,000. He was more than halfway to the peak of the 3rd realm of the strength of the hell-crushing god mammoth. However, 4 million primordial mammoth seeds was the limit of Jun Haoyin's primordial spirit Dharma idol. Jun Haoyin believed that if he broke through to the immortal longevity realm, he would be able to reach the peak of the 3rd realm of the strength of the hell-crushing god mammoth. At that time, he would be able to reach the peak of the 3rd realm of the strength of the hell-crushing god mammoth. Just as Tao Xian and the others left, the Langya painting of mountains and rivers once again shot out boundless light. Jun Haoyin, who was sitting cross-legged, suddenly opened his eyes. Chapter 211. At this moment, the whole world seemed to have stopped in front of Jun Haoyin's eyes. Looking at the scene in the Langya Mountain River diagram, Jun Haoyin fell into an epiphany, as if he was about to transcend. This was especially the case for Jun Haoyin's physical body right now, which was giving off an extremely horrifying aura. It was as if his every move could shake heaven and earth and move the sun, moon and stars. This was the indestructible heavenly god body. Immortal, indestructible and immortal. Moreover, it was the indestructible heavenly god body that was cultivated in an unparalleled holy land. If Jun Haoyin could walk out of the Wuxian continent and head to the starry sky, there, his indestructible heavenly god body would be strengthened to the greatest extent. If he used his Dharma idol heaven and earth with his means, he would definitely be able to move thousands of stars. With such pure power, even an immortal longevity realm powerhouse could be defeated with one punch. He could even fight an immortal creation realm powerhouse head-on and not be at a disadvantage. However, if he encountered an immortal realm powerhouse, Jun Haoyin would still not be able to defeat him. Unless he comprehended the immortal realm and lived for 10,000 years. After reaching the immortal realm, he would be able to fight an immortal realm powerhouse. At this moment, the number of giant elephant seeds in Jun Haoyin's body had also reached an extremely terrifying number. A total of 2 million. With so many giant elephant seeds, his true core energy was incomparably dense. When fighting at the same level, he could use magical powers at will without caring about the consumption of true core energy. In addition, those supreme magical powers in the Cauldron Nourishment scriptures had also been successfully comprehended by Jun Haoyin. Even the Heavenly Heart Frost Arrogance technique that Jun Moyo left him, of the 3,000 snowflake patterns, had been refined by him as many as 30 pieces. This meant that he could be considered to have entered the door of this supreme technique. At this moment he could change the seasons at will, change the heavens and the earth and freeze thousands of miles with a single move. If Jun Haoyin activated the Heavenly Heart Frost Arrogance technique with all his strength, even 100,000 miles of mountains and rivers could be frozen in an instant. This supreme technique from the Divine Lady of the Four Stars Divine Realm was extraordinarily powerful. When Jun Haoyan activated this technique, he could even seal the Heaven-Earth Yuan Qi in true essence in the void. As for the other Supreme Emperor arts, Jun Haoyan had already cultivated them to an extremely high level. Especially the Do Secret character and the All Secret character, he had already reached the stage where he could use them as he pleased. He no longer needed to circulate the secret of all 10,000 times to activate it. As long as he willed it, he would be able to increase his combat power by 10 times at any time. After cultivating in the Langya Mountain River diagram for 20 days, Jun Haoyan's strength could be said to have undergone an earth-shattering change. At this moment, his strength had undergone a complete qualitative change. Compared to when he entered the Langya landscape diagram, his strength had increased by at least 10 times. Jun Haoyan was extremely confident. In the Trichilia Cosm, no one in the Dharma characteristic realm was his match. No matter how monstrous the other party was or how peerless the other party was. Jun Haoyan was even confident that he could suppress the Supreme Emperor who dominated the heavens when he was in the Dharma characteristic realm. This was strength, this was confidence. What a pity. I still couldn't break through to the immortal realm this time. It seems that I still need some time to break through to the immortal realm. Feeling the incomparably violent strength in his body, Jun Haoyan was extremely confident, but at the same time he couldn't help but feel a little regretful. After all, only by reaching the immortal realm could one be qualified to enter the ranks of the top experts in the continent. The immortal realm was extremely important to him. His main goal for this time's seclusion was to break through to the immortal realm. In the end he didn't achieve his goal. This made Jun Haoyan feel a little disappointed. According to his estimation, the energy in the Langya landscape diagram could allow his primordial spirit to reach 10 inches and 10 parts. However, it was impossible to achieve the immortal realm. Therefore, if he wanted to reach the immortal realm, Jun Haoyan still had to find other ways. The martial god continent was about to face a great calamity. Before the calamity arrived, Jun Haoyan had to ensure that he had the strength of the immortal realm. Only then could he protect himself in this great calamity. Jun Haoyan had cultivated the demonic heaven-devouring skill to an extremely high level. At this moment he could already devour the surrounding heaven and earth Yuan Qi on his own. Although he was in seclusion, Jun Haoyan didn't spend much energy to absorb the heaven and earth Yuan Qi. Just like that, he cultivated while thinking of a way to break through to the immortal realm. As for what was happening in the outside world, he had no idea. While Jun Haoyan was in seclusion, in the outside world, in the martial god continent's central plains. The Central Plains had always been known as the land of the dragon veins of the martial god continent. It was also the most fertile place. It could be said that this was a place full of outstanding people. The largest number of humans gathered here. However, at this moment, somewhere in the Central Plains, the heavens and earth were shaking. Endless golden clouds were surging in the void. Countless mortals gathered and knelt on the ground. They looked like they were praying to the heavens. Here, a vast divine light spread out. A mountain that was originally only a few hundred meters tall suddenly grew to 1,000 meters tall. In just a single night, it had grown to a height of hundreds of thousands of zhang, reaching straight into the sky and into the clouds. Above, it looked like it was connecting the heavens and the earth. All the mortals who had lived here for generations had never seen such a scene. They all thought that it was the work of a god and kept kowtowing. This action attracted countless cultivators in the surroundings to watch. However, any cultivator who got within 10,000 meters of this huge mountain disappeared, never to appear again. Chapter 2, Son of Heaven in everyone's eyes, this divine mountain was incomparably vast. It was taller than any mountain in the martial god continent. Not only was it tall, but many cultivators couldn't see the end of the mountain when they looked at it. Some cultivators tried to fly over this divine mountain but found that they couldn't fly above it. This divine mountain that appeared seemed to run through the entire martial god continent. Everyone in the continent looked up at it. At this moment, millions of mortals gathered at the foot of this divine mountain. They kept kowtowing to the divine mountain. Their mouths were constantly muttering something. It was as if they were praying to the heavens and earth for the blessings of the gods. Above the clouds, many cultivators from the Central Plains also gathered. They didn't care about what the mortals were doing. Instead, they looked up at the divine mountain. What's going on? At this moment, a domineering voice sounded in the void. The entire world seemed to be shaking. A man in a golden python robe suddenly appeared in the void. He was looking at the divine mountain in front of him. At this moment, this man had a dignified face. He exuded the aura of a king from head to toe. It was as if a noble son of heaven had descended. As long as this man stood there, countless people would submit to him. He was the ruler of the world. This man who suddenly appeared was the crown prince of the Vermilion Bird Empire, the head of the 4 empires in the Central Plains. He was known as the Son of Heaven. That's right, this man's name was Son of Heaven. Before the sacred mountain left the mountain, the Son of Heaven had already sensed the strange movements here. After that, Son of Heaven didn't hesitate at all. He led many experts here to see what was going on. After all, this area was the territory of the Vermilion Bird Empire. Naturally, he had to investigate thoroughly. Your Highness, there's no news from the experts we arranged to enter this mountain. As soon as Son of Heaven finished speaking, a middle-aged man came to Son of Heaven's side. This man's aura was also extremely terrifying. His cultivation had even reached the immortal longevity realm. Such a supreme existence was incomparably lowly in front of Son of Heaven at this moment. This scene naturally caused the bystanders to be incomparably shocked. We lost news. Did none of them come back? Hearing the middle-aged man's words, Son of Heaven immediately frowned. He looked at the divine mountain again with a trace of surprise on his face. One had to know that the people he arranged to enter this mountain were all experts. There were even peak transcendence realm existences. Even such experts didn't come out after entering this mountain. And there was no news at all. No one knew if they were alive or dead. Did you find out any other information? After a moment, Son of Heaven ignored this matter and asked the middle-aged man again. With such an attitude, it was as if even the death of a primordial spirit transcendence realm expert was nothing in front of him. As one of the oldest empires in the Central Plains, the Vermilion Bird Empire's foundation wasn't any weaker than the Kunlun Holy Land. Your Highness, we've investigated a lot. According to the words of the mortals here, this place was originally a low hill, but for some reason, it suddenly rose by more than 10,000 feet last night. It's simply inconceivable. Hearing Son of Heaven's question again, the middle-aged man's face turned serious and slowly told him what he knew. Even as an immortal level 5 expert, he had never experienced such an unbelievable scene. The scene in front of him was simply too unbelievable. If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, he probably wouldn't have dared to believe all of this. In just one night, the small mountain that was a few hundred meters tall had such a change? Oh. After hearing the man's words, Son of Heaven's face was actually filled with curiosity. Obviously, he had also developed a trace of interest in this matter. But that was all there was to it. He could clearly feel that within this sacred mountain, there were definitely many shocking secrets hidden. After the primordial spirit transcendence realm experts entered, they all disappeared without a trace and didn't cause any trouble. He even felt that even if the immortal level experts of ancient giants entered this mountain, they probably wouldn't be able to come out. Fortunately, at present, this sacred mountain didn't pose any threat to the Vermilion Bird Empire's immortals. Otherwise, even he wouldn't be able to do anything. By the way, Your Highness, it's said that this mountain is called Barren Mountain. At this moment, the middle-aged man seemed to have thought of something and immediately spoke up. It was as if in his heart, the two words, Barren Mountain, represented some unusual meaning. However, after hearing this, Son of Heaven didn't have much of an expression. This was because he didn't know what this sacred mountain called Barren Mountain represented. Pay attention to the movements here. I'll go back and report to my father. Son of Heaven said. After discovering that there was no threat, he directly left this place. At this moment in the Langya sacred ground, Jun Haoyan was still in seclusion. Ding. The check-in time has been refreshed. Host, do you wish to check in? At this moment, a familiar system notification sounded in Jun Haoyan's mind. Hearing this, Jun Haoyan's face naturally lit up. He was just worrying about how to break through to the immortal level. Perhaps this check-in could help him? Thinking of this, Jun Haoyan muttered in his mind, check-in. Ding. Congratulations to the host for check-in successfully. You have obtained the boundless heaven and earth treasure plate. The next moment, the system's voice sounded again. At this moment, after hearing this voice, Jun Haoyan's expression was slightly stunned. However, when the information of this boundless heaven and earth treasure plate appeared in his mind, he began to fall into an incomparable shock. He never expected that he would actually obtain such a rare treasure from checking in this time. Through the information transmitted to him by the system, Jun Haoyan naturally also knew the function of this boundless heaven and earth treasure plate. This boundless heaven and earth treasure plate only had one greatest ability, and that was that it could detect all the treasures in the world. Yes. As long as one had this treasure plate, one could find all the treasures and supreme fortunes in the world. As long as these treasures or fortunes were in front of this treasure plate, they would have nowhere to hide. Moreover, according to the settings of this boundless heaven and earth treasure plate, the treasures it searched for were the most powerful and most precious fortunes in the surroundings. Although this strange treasure seemed to have only one use, it was still extremely powerful. It was indeed very powerful. That was why Jun Haoyan was so shocked. With this boundless heaven and earth treasure plate, Jun Haoyan could find countless heavenly treasures. Of course, it was not that easy to use this boundless heaven and earth treasure plate to find treasures. Injecting true essence into it was only one of the steps. If he wanted to activate it a second time, he would need to wait. Therefore, it was not that easy to use this boundless heaven and earth treasure plate to find his own fortune. Without much hesitation, Jun Haoyan took out the compass in his hand. Layers of light surged on it, looking mysterious and powerful. As long as Jun Haoyan wanted, this treasure plate could find the strongest fortune in the surroundings. However, he did not do so because the setting of this treasure plate was that the range of treasure hunting was based on one's strength. Jun Haoyan had the strength of a primordial soul Dharma phase master, so according to his estimation, he could only find the strongest fortune in the surrounding 100,000 miles. Almost all of the surrounding 100,000 miles could be considered the territory of the Langya sacred land. Of course, he knew what was inside. Therefore, Jun Haoyan did not use this first opportunity to activate it now. At this moment, Jun Haoyan placed the boundless heaven and earth treasure plate into his sea of Qi Dantian and took a deep breath. Now, the primordial soul in his body had reached 10 inches and 10 parts. He was one step away from the immortal longevity realm. Unfortunately, this step required various factors and good fortune to be taken. It was not enough to just have powerful energy. Just as Jun Haoyan was about to continue his seclusion, Tao Xin's voice came from outside. Haoyan, something big has happened in the Central Plains. Hearing this, Jun Haoyan suddenly opened his eyes. Could it be a change in the martial god continent? It was going to start so soon? Chapter 212. Originally, Jun Haoyan had thought that the calamity that Jun Moyo had mentioned would take some time to descend. He had not expected it to be so soon. In the next moment, Jun Haoyan stood up and activated the demonic heaven-devouring skill. He directly absorbed all the qi of heaven and earth in the void into his energy center. Then, the small primordial spirit in Jun Haoyan's body grew a little and became 10 inches tall. It turned into a stream of light and entered between his eyebrows. At this moment, the 2 million giant elephant seeds that had awakened in his body began to grow rapidly. In a short while they had reached over 4 million. This number was already the peak that Jun Haoyan could achieve in the Transcendence realm. At this moment he was only one step away from breaking through to the immortal realm. All he needed was an opportunity and Jun Haoyan could successfully break through to the immortal realm. Moreover, this opportunity was not far away. Since his cultivation had already reached the peak of the Transcendence realm and he was unable to break through for the time being, Jun Haoyan did not hesitate and walked out of the Langya landscape illustration. Outside the Langya landscape illustration, Tao Xin saw Jun Haoyan come out and felt Jun Haoyan's aura. Tao Xin could not help but be shocked. Primordial spirit at the peak of the Transcendence realm and 10 inches of primordial spirit? Tao Xin said slowly as he stared at Jun Haoyan carefully. With just one look, Tao Xin could tell Jun Haoyan's current cultivation level. During the time that Jun Haoyan was in seclusion, he had been wholeheartedly activating the Langya landscape illustration. Therefore, Tao Xin could tell Jun Haoyan's current cultivation level at a glance. After Jun Haoyan heard Tao Xin's words, he nodded slowly. There was no need to hide his cultivation level from Tao Xin. Looks like you're just a step away from achieving a breakthrough to the sempiternal realm. Tao Xin continued. The fact that Jun Haoyan could reach his current level of strength was indeed shocking to him. However, when he thought of the monstrous talent that Jun Haoyan had displayed, he was shocked. It was reasonable for him to be able to break through to the peak of the Transcendence realm, but it was also unexpected. However, if a martial artist wanted to break through to the immortal 10,000 longevity realm, this was a process of qualitative change. Breaking through to the sempiternal realm was both simple and difficult. For some warriors with ordinary talents, even if they cultivated for hundreds or thousands of years, they still wouldn't be able to step into the immortal longevity realm. There were even some who couldn't break through to the sempiternal realm even after death. However, in Tao Xin's opinion, it was only a matter of time before Jun Haoyan broke through to the immortal realm. Holy Lord, what did you say happened in the Central Plains? Jun Haoyan didn't say much on this topic. Instead he asked Tao Xin. As the center of the martial god continent, the Central Plains could be said to be a place full of outstanding talents. It also had to be suppressed by the 4 ancient empires. It could be said that a small change in the Central Plains was enough to alarm the entire continent. There's something fishy about this. Let's go to the Langya Sacred Palace first, Tao Xian said. Upon hearing that, Jun Haoyin nodded and left with Tao Xian. The two of them instantly turned into 2 streams of light and flew out of the Langya Sacred Palace. At this moment, in the Langya Sacred Palace, all the Grand Elders and Hall Masters of the Langya Sacred Palace had gathered. Jun Haoyin could even feel that some of the Grand Elders and Hall Masters' auras had become much stronger. It was obvious that they had benefited greatly from the previous life and death battle. As expected, the path of cultivation still had to go through trials and tribulations. After a great calamity there would be new life. After successfully surviving the previous calamity, the Langya Sacred Palace was now reborn. Now there were many things in the Langya Sacred Palace that were waiting to be rebuilt. It was about to burst forth towards the peak of the Langya Sacred Palace. At this moment, all the Grand Elders and Hall Masters closed their eyes and waited quietly. But at this moment, 2 figures appeared in the Langya Sacred Palace, causing everyone to open their eyes. Greetings, Holy Lord. Greetings, Holy Son. Greetings, Holy Lord. Greetings, Holy Son. Everyone spoke at this moment with smiles and a trace of respect on their faces. Originally, it was normal for Tao Xian to receive such treatment as the Holy Lord of a sacred palace. However, Jun Haoyin was only the Holy Son. In terms of seniority, both the Grand Elders and Hall Masters were his seniors. Now, however, he was receiving the same treatment. In the eyes of outsiders, this was simply impossible. But now, both the Grand Elders and Hall Masters were treating Jun Haoyin the same way. Everyone was sincere and had some respect for him. In cultivation, the one who reached the top was first. Age had nothing to do with it. Although Jun Haoyin's cultivation was not necessarily as high as the Grand Elders, he had played a vital role in the previous battle. It was because of him that the Langya Sacred Palace could not be destroyed. It was normal for him to receive such treatment. At this moment in the Langya Sacred Palace, in addition to the Holy Lord throne that belonged to Tao Xian, there was also the Holy Sun throne that was second only to Tao Xian's. This throne belonged to Jun Haoyin, and was only half a step behind the Holy Lord throne. From this, it could be seen that Jun Haoyin's terrifying status in the Langya Sacred Palace was much higher than that of the Grand Elders. Tao Xian and Jun Haoyin both nodded at this moment. They did not say anything and took their places. Now that the upper echelons of the Langya Sacred Palace were standing in this place, Jun Haoyin guessed that what had happened in Zhongzhou was not a small matter. Then Tao Xian gestured for everyone to sit down, and then began to talk about what had happened in Zhongzhou recently. What? A divine mountain suddenly rose up in Zhongzhou and went straight to the outer region. It's called Mount Tai? Jun Haoyin was extremely surprised when he heard Tao Xian's words. If it was just an ordinary change he would not be so surprised. But that divine mountain was called Mount Tai. He was not sure if the two were related in any way. What? Do you know this giant mountain? Tao Xian asked. They were very surprised because Jun Haoyin, who had always been steady, rarely had such a reaction. When Jun Haoyin heard this, he immediately shook his head, indicating that he did not know. The people present did not suspect anything. After all, Jun Haoyin now had great prestige in the Langya Sacred Palace. It was impossible for anyone to suspect him. After Jun Haoyin sat down he kept frowning but soon calmed down. Perhaps it was just the same name. He then asked, "Is there any other news?" "Yes," Tao Xian answered. Although it happened in Zhongzhou, it was very easy for a sacred palace to gather information. Then as Tao Xian continued to explain, Jun Haoyin became more and more surprised. That was because the divine mountain called Mount Tai was extremely mysterious. There were powerhouses from the Vermilion Bird dynasty who approached within 10,000 meters of it, but they all disappeared in the end. No one even knew if they were dead or alive. But strangely, as long as people with ordinary cultivation entered, they would not be affected at all. Under such circumstances, people from major forces sent mortals to explore. Unfortunately, the information they received was that there was no way to go up, as if there was some barrier blocking them. Under such circumstances, no one knew what secrets were hidden in Mount Tai. But even so, people from major forces still received a small amount of information. That was, there were mortals who saw it at the peak of the divine mountain. There was a figure wearing a dragon robe, a sacrifice to the heavens. Chapter 2, Jun Haoyin's guess. At the peak of Mount Tai, there was someone wearing a yellow robe offering sacrifices to the heavens. These rumors were said to have been spread by mortals. Warriors standing 10,000 meters away from Mount Tai could not see anything on Mount Tai. Only after going deep could they discover the strange phenomenon inside. But Mount Tai could only be entered by ordinary mortals. This news immediately shocked all the major forces in Wuxian continent. Because all warriors were not allowed to enter Mount Tai, the secret rumors circulating on the continent were all from the mouths of mortals. In short, the news brought by these mortals was trustworthy. After all, in front of warriors, these mortals did not dare to lie at all. However, when Jun Haoyan heard this news again, his mind was shocked again. In his previous life, the world he lived in, it was also a famous Mount Tai. Although the height of Mount Tai could not be compared to the divine mountain in Middle-earth. In his previous life, Jun Haoyan had seen some information about it. Legend had it that Mount Tai was the place where all the emperors worshipped. In his previous life, regardless of whether it was the emperors of ancient times or the emperors of previous dynasties, they would all climb Mount Tai to worship and express their orthodoxy. And according to the news leaked by these mortals, it seemed that Mount Tai in Middle-earth was the same. Could it be that Wuxian continent has some connection with the world of my previous life? Are these two Mount Tai the same one? At this moment, Jun Haoyan had already made up his mind. If he had the chance, he would go there personally to investigate. But according to the news, any warrior who wanted to enter Mount Tai would disappear very quickly. It was unknown if immortal realm warriors could come out after entering. But even if Dharma characteristic realm warriors entered, they would not return. They could not even cause a ripple. From this point of view, the current Mount Tai could be considered to be extremely dangerous. If one was not careful, they might not be able to return. Many powerful warriors on the continent did not dare to take the risk. However, Jun Haoyan was not afraid at all. In order to investigate the secrets of Mount Tai, he had to enter Mount Tai at least once. So far, this is the only news we have, and this is only what happened in Middle-earth. At this moment, Tao Xian spoke slowly. At this moment, he was also frowning. Obviously, these strange things had already exceeded the scope of his understanding. Even as the Holy Lord of the human race, he could not find out the secrets behind all this. Even the number one dynasty in Middle-earth, the Vermilion Bird dynasty, after discovering Mount Tai, had given up after spending a lot of effort to investigate it to no avail. They could only allow Mount Tai to develop and affect countless mortals. As one of the oldest factions on Wuxian continent, they had actually chosen to retreat directly. From this, it was clear that the Vermilion Bird dynasty was aware of the dangers involved. But the way Dao Yan saw it, he had an ominous premonition from start to finish. However, when Jun Haoyan heard Tao Xian's words, he caught some information. He immediately asked Tao Xian, "Holy Lord, do you mean that there are other places besides Middle-earth that are experiencing strange changes?" Jun Haoyan was very suspicious. Could this be the great calamity that Jun Moyo mentioned? That's right. In the north of eastern wilderness, where it meets North Sea, there is a place called Penglai that is covered in endless fog. A grand elder spoke up and said this. The moment he said this, Jun Haoyan was shocked again. First Mount Tai in Middle-earth, and now Penglai in eastern wilderness? What was going on? Could this Wuxian continent really have a lot to do with the world in his previous life? Or maybe they just have the same name. This time, even Jun Haoyan was beginning to feel suspicious. However, when he wanted to investigate further, that grand elder didn't say any important information. This was because no matter if it was a mortal or a cultivator, or even any creature that entered Penglai that was shrouded in fog, they never came out again. North Sea was the gathering place of the demon race. And the demon race was the greatest enemy of all races. They had once launched many great wars in ancient times. In a certain era, they had even ruled 3,000 worlds and challenged the prestige of the immortal god world. After that, the immortal god world paid a huge price and sent down many eternal and ancient existences to defeat the demon race. In the end, they sealed the demon race in the north of various great worlds. In other words, the north of the 3,000 worlds was a terrifying place that sealed the immortal god world and the demon world. It was also where all races stopped because no one knew what would happen if the demon race appeared again. As for Penglai, it was shrouded in fog. This was the place that the entire Wuxian continent paid attention to. No one wanted the demon race to break the seal because no one could defeat the demon race except the immortal god world. However, now it seemed that other than being shrouded in fog, there was no change in Penglai. However, the occurrence of these two major events caused all the warriors in the Wuxian continent to feel uneasy. Some people even said that this was a sign that the Wuxian continent was about to be destroyed and that a great disaster was about to befall. However, not many people cared about this kind of talk. Although there was a disaster that could destroy a great world, it would not happen so easily. In short, there were all kinds of theories. This was also the reason why the higher-ups of the Langya sacred land had called for a meeting. After all, as the top force of the Wuxian continent, they had to take precautions. Holy Sun, what do you think about these things? After a long discussion, Tao Xian looked at Jun Haotian. Letting Jun Haotian participate in the meeting meant that he now had the right to speak and even the right to make decisions. At this moment, after hearing these things, Jun Haotian stood up. I suggest that we call back all the disciples who have gone out to train during this period of time. The entire Langya sacred land will enter a state of martial law. Without orders, no one is allowed to go out easily. Jun Haotian looked at everyone present. His tone was very solemn, almost without any consideration as he voiced his opinion. When the Supreme Elder and Tao Xian heard this, their expressions changed drastically. Martial law in the Langya sacred land? Without orders, no disciples were allowed to go out to train? One had to know that this was only done when the sacred land was in danger of being destroyed. Now, Jun Haotian had actually said this in front of everyone and suggested that the higher-ups issue such an order. Although the other sacred lands had also called for a meeting of the higher-ups, almost all of them were observing. They only asked their disciples to be careful and did not issue such an order. The result of doing so would cause panic in the sacred land. Unless it was a last resort, no one would do this. Are you suspecting something? Although Tao Xian was surprised by this order, he did not raise any objections. Instead, he asked directly. He knew that Jun Haotian must have his own reasons for doing so. It was also possible that he had sensed something. Now, Jun Haotian was not just the Holy Sun. He was a figure standing at the top of the Langya sacred land. The other supreme elders did the same, waiting for Jun Haotian's explanation. Jun Haotian looked at everyone present, took a deep breath and said, "Perhaps the most terrifying catastrophe of the Wuxian continent is really coming." Chapter 213. A terrifying great calamity is about to descend upon the world. As soon as Jun Haotian said this, everyone present was shocked. The various supreme elders looked at each other in dismay, their faces filled with suspicion. If this sentence was said by someone else, they would only treat it as a rumor and would not believe it at all. However, these words actually came out of Jun Haotian's mouth. With their understanding of Jun Haotian, they absolutely believed that Jun Haotian would not speak without thinking. Then everyone looked at Jun Haotian with a hint of doubt in their eyes. They were guessing in their hearts, did the Holy Sun know something? Of course, these were just guesses in their hearts. As for the specific situation, they still had to hear Jun Haotian explain it personally. At this moment, Jun Haotian's eyes flashed with a hint of contemplation. He hesitated in his heart whether he should tell everyone what Jun Moyo told him. Of course, with Jun Haotian's current strength and status, even if he did not want to explain, no one would dare to force him. Everyone would also consider his words carefully. After hesitating for a moment, Jun Haotian decided to tell everyone everything. After all, this matter would be known by the world sooner or later. Jun Haotian looked at everyone present. His expression did not change as he began to explain everything. He first told everyone about Jun Moyo. He did not even hide Jun Moyo's origin from everyone. Jun Haotian knew very well in his heart that if this great calamity really descended, it would be difficult for the entire Langya Holy Land to survive this great calamity. When the great calamity descended, the world barrier would disappear. At that time, the peerless masters of the 3,000 great worlds would descend upon the martial god continent. How terrifying would that be? How many terrifying existences would descend upon the continent? At that time, even the various sacred masters would not be much of a threat. As long as an Emperor Realm Master descended upon the martial god continent, they would be able to kill holy masters at will. The power structure of the martial god continent would instantly change. Furthermore, the various experts from the 3,000 worlds would not care about the destruction caused to the martial god continent. If a battle between Emperor Realm Masters was unrestrained, it would be enough to shatter the entire eastern wilderness. After the calamity was over, these foreign experts would decisively leave the martial god continent, leaving behind a mess. To them, the destruction of the martial god continent did not matter. If the martial god continent was destroyed, then a colossus like the Langya sacred ground, as one of the strongest forces on the martial god continent, would definitely be the first to be affected. These secrets were told by Jun Moyo to Jun Haotian at the small thunder temple. After a while, Jun Haotian finally told him everything. These words were also a warning to everyone in the Langya Holy Land. When they heard Jun Haoyin's words, everyone present, including the Holy Lord of Langya and Tao Xian, was extremely shocked. At this moment, it was as if they had heard something from the Arabian Nights. What Jun Haoyin said was completely beyond their imagination and understanding. Jun Moyo was actually one of the clones of the supreme existence of the God world, goddess Shenji. Such an existence was actually a true disciple of their Langya holy land. This news was too shocking for the Holy Lord of Langya, Tao Xian, and the supreme elders present, especially Jun Moyo's master. So, Linglong Holy Master knew about Jun Moyo's identity, so she tried to snatch Jun Moyo. At this moment, a supreme elder spoke slowly. It was Jun Moyo's master. At this moment he finally understood the cause and effect of the matter. However, he still found it hard to believe about Jun Moyo's origin. Haoyin, are you talking about the legendary 5 decay of heaven and man? At this moment, after hearing Jun Haoyin's words, Tao Xian seemed to have thought of something and suddenly spoke. At the mention of the 5 decay of heaven and man, Tao Xian's expression was filled with caution. 5 decay of heaven and man? It was the first time Jun Haoyin had heard of this term, so he immediately looked at Tao Xian in confusion. Seeing the confusion in Jun Haoyin's eyes, Tao Xian immediately began to explain. After a moment, Jun Haoyin understood what the 5 decay of heaven and man was. His expression became unprecedentedly cautious. At this moment, Jun Haoyin was even more certain that the great calamity that Jun Moyo had mentioned was the 5 decay of heaven and man. Jun Haoyin. He had also read some books about the ancient secrets of the martial god continent. The ancient books had mentioned that a long time ago, the martial god continent was ranked very high in the 3,000 worlds. When it was born, it was ranked in the top 10 worlds of the 3,000 worlds. Every once in a while, a great calamity would descend between the heavens and the earth in the top 10 worlds. At this moment, Jun Haoyin already understood that this so-called great calamity should be the 5 decay of heaven and man. Only by successfully passing the 5 decay of heaven and man would one be able to rise in the 3,000 worlds ranking. On the other hand, if one failed to pass the calamity, one's ranking would drop. Unfortunately, so far, only the martial god continent had failed to pass the calamity among the top 10 worlds. The current martial god continent was not even ranked in the top 500 of the 3,000 worlds. The reason for all of this was because the previous 5 decay of heaven and man had failed to pass the calamity. Since MOU said it, it can't be wrong. I didn't expect that the 5 decay of heaven and man would really descend. Tao Xian took a deep breath and slowly stood up with an extremely solemn expression. Since he already knew Jun Moyo's background as an assassin, he naturally believed in Jun Moyo's words without a doubt. This 5 decay of heaven and man calamity was enough to reshuffle the forces of the entire martial god continent. If it was more serious, perhaps the entire martial god continent would be buried. For the sake of the Langya sacred ground or the future of the entire martial god continent, they had to treat this great calamity seriously. Thinking of this, a trace of determination flashed across Tao Xian's face. Then he looked at everyone present and spoke directly. As the Holy Lord of Langya, I issue a decree. From today onwards, the entire sacred ground will enter a state of emergency. All the disciples of the Langya sacred ground are not allowed to leave without orders. In addition, I announce that Jun Haoyin has already stepped into the peak of the 10th level of the Transcendence Realm. Once he breaks through to the 5th level of the Immortal Realm, it will be the time for him to succeed the position of the sacred leader. From today onwards, the Holy Son of Haoyin has the authority to control the life and death of the entire sacred ground. The entire Langya sacred ground must obey the orders of the Holy Son. At this moment, Tao Xian directly announced to the entire Langya sacred ground. His voice was extremely loud. Although it was only heard in the Langya sacred hall, it spread throughout the entire Langya sacred ground. Tao Xian's words directly caused the entire Langya sacred ground to enter a state of emergency. What's going on? Didn't we just end the emergency state of emergency? Is something going to happen again? The Holy Son of Haoyin can directly succeed the position of the sacred leader after breaking through to the 5th level of the Immortal Realm. Is the sacred leader going to give the position to the Holy Son of Haoyin? Hearing Langya's holy leader Tao Xian's words, all the pro-disciples were aghast and filled with disbelief. The Holy Lord of Langya's orders were too sudden and shocking for them. Especially that Haoyin, as long as he broke through to the Immortal Realm, he could directly take on the position of the Holy Lord of Langya. One had to know that in every sacred ground of the human clan, there were even people who wanted to take on the position of the sacred leader. They had to go through the heavenly worship ceremony and obtain the approval of the heavenly worship ceremony before they could take on the position of the sacred leader. Many people felt that Dao Yan's order was given a little too early, too careless. At this moment, in the Langya Sacred Hall, all the temple masters and supreme elders stood up. Although they looked a little hesitant, they hesitated for a moment before directly saying, "We obey the sacred leader's orders." If it were any other time, no matter how strong and talented Jun Haoyan was, they would still follow the sacred grounds rules. They would also insist on following the sacred grounds rules. But now, the 5 decay of heavenly beings was about to happen. They could not care less during this critical period. At this moment, Tao Xian seemed to have thought of something and looked at Jun Haoyan. He said with a somewhat grave tone, "Is Supreme Sky willing to be the Holy Lord of Langya?" Translator. Nyoibo Studio Editor. Nyoibo Studio, are you willing to become the Holy Lord of Langya? Tao Xian's sudden words were enough to shock everyone present. At this moment, not only was Tao Xian staring at Jun Haoyan, but all the people from Langya Holy Land in the hall were also staring at him. Everyone's eyes were filled with anticipation and hope. In their hearts, they hoped that Jun Haoyan could become the next Holy Lord of the Langya Sacred Ground. They also believed that the powerful Holy Son of Haoyan would lead the Langya Holy Ground to new heights. At this moment, Jun Haoyan was definitely everyone's favorite. During his time as the Holy Son of Haoyan, Jun Haoyan had completely conquered all the elders and temple masters of the Langya Sacred Ground with his talent, strength, and domineering attitude. Jun Haoyan had killed many geniuses and peerless geniuses. His invincible attitude among the younger generation had completely conquered hundreds of thousands of Langya disciples. At this moment, if Jun Haoyan were to ascend to the position of Holy Lord, no one would object. To ascend to the position of Holy Lord so easily, this had never happened before in the Wuxian continent. This was not only the case in the Langya Sacred Ground, but also in the other sacred grounds and dynasties of the continent. If the Holy Son wanted to ascend to the position of Holy Lord, he would not only need to rely on strength, but also monstrous methods. For example, if the Crown Prince of the 4 dynasties wanted to ascend to the throne, he would also need to secretly win over his officials and consolidate his power. When Tao Xian was still around, he had also gone through many battles before successfully ascending to the position of Holy Lord. Unlike Jun Haoyan's current situation, there had been a total of 4 Holy Sun in the Langya Sacred Ground back then. Tao Xian's success in ascending to the position of Holy Lord was due to his killing methods, talent, and strength. But now, Jun Haoyan was the only Holy Sun in the Langya Sacred Ground. There was no competition and no one could compete with him. Moreover, the entire Bluetooth Sacred Ground, including the Holy Lord, Grand Supreme Elder, and all the Langya disciples, they were all thinking that Jun Haoyan could become the next Holy Lord of Langya. In that great battle, Jun Haoyan had displayed his strength and methods. Everyone in the Langya Sacred Ground believed that he could lead the Langya Sacred Ground to glory again. Moreover, the Wuxian continent would face an unparalleled calamity. The arrival of the 5 decay of the Heavenly Man had caused everyone in the Langya Sacred Ground to panic. At this moment they needed a powerful person to lead them. Of course, this did not mean that the Langya disciples no longer trusted the Holy Lord of Langya and Tao Xian. They just needed a more powerful Holy Lord to lead the Langya Sacred Ground. In that great battle, Jun Haoyan had displayed strength that was far stronger than Tao Xian's. Therefore, the Langya disciples hoped that Jun Haoyan could step forward and lead the Langya Sacred Ground. Of course, this was not only what the Langya disciples hoped to see. Tao Xian also hoped that Jun Haoyan could take the position of the Holy Lord of Langya. At this moment, Jun Haoyan's heart was filled with shock when he saw this scene. He looked at everyone present and fell silent for a moment. To be honest, Jun Haoyan had never thought of taking the position of the Holy Lord of Langya. He had never thought of taking the position of the Holy Lord of Langya. To him, the Langya Sacred Ground and even the entire Wuxian continent were too small. He had ambitions in his heart and wanted to explore the 3,000 worlds. That was his true stage. When he had agreed to become the Holy Son of Langya, it was only to deal with the Xiang Holy Sun. However, if he had agreed to become the Holy Lord of Langya, he could no longer rely on himself. His every word and action represented the entire Langya Sacred Ground. From now on, he would unconditionally pay any price to protect the Langya Sacred Ground. This was a responsibility that he had to fulfill after becoming the Holy Lord of Langya. Jun Haoyan had always been a loner and was most afraid of troublesome matters. When he heard Tao Xian's words, his first reaction was to directly reject it. However, when he saw the hope in the eyes of everyone present, he fell silent and did not open his mouth to reject it. He did not expect that everyone present would support him to take the position of the Holy Lord of Langya. When Jun Haoyin stepped down, if anyone objected to him taking the position of the Holy Lord of Langya, he could take the opportunity to step down. However, at this moment, no one objected. This made him feel a little conflicted. This scene in front of him was the hope and trust that all the disciples and elders of Langya had in him. During his time as the Holy Son of Langya, the Langya sacred ground had done a lot for him. As the Holy Son of Langya, he had to fulfill his responsibility to protect the Langya sacred ground. Moreover, in Jun Haoyin's opinion, there was no conflict between becoming the Holy Lord of Langya and exploring the 3,000 worlds in the future. Of course, the time might be delayed for a while. Jun Haoyin planned in his heart that after he led the entire Langya sacred ground and successfully survived the 5 decay of heaven and man, when the time came he would support others to take the position. Therefore Jun Haoyin thought it through. He did not have to reject the position of the Holy Lord of Langya. Thinking of this, Jun Haoyin could not help but sigh slightly in his heart and feel a little emotional. In his heart, he had never thought that there would be such a day. When this day suddenly came, Jun Haoyin, who had always been calm, was actually at a loss. After calming his slightly agitated emotions, Jun Haoyin looked at the Holy Lord of Langya, Tao Xian, and the Supreme Elders present. Then he nodded solemnly. Okay, I agree to take the position of the Holy Lord of Langya. In the main hall, Jun Haoyin's voice was sonorous and powerful. It was full of dominance and confidence. When Jun Haoyin said this, everyone present, including Tao Xian and the Supreme Elders, looked excited. They secretly heaved a sigh of relief. In their hearts, with Jun Haoyin's talent, sooner or later, he would be able to break through the 5 immortal realms and reach a higher realm. At that time, the Trichiliacosm would be his real stage. The small Langya sacred ground would not be able to restrain him at all. The moment Tao Xian spoke, he did not even have a trace of hope that Jun Haoyin could be the Holy Lord of Langya. At this moment, when he saw that Jun Haoyin had actually agreed, he was undoubtedly very excited. Because this represented Jun Haoyin's acknowledgement of the Langya sacred ground. This was a true sense of belonging. It also represented that the Langya sacred ground's unconditional support of the Holy Son of Haoyin's choice was not wrong. In that case, I will wait for you to successfully break through the immortal realm. At this moment, Tao Xian looked at Jun Haoyin with a face full of smiles. Ever since he took the position of the Holy Lord of Langya, he had never been as relaxed as he was today. It was as if a very heavy burden had been lifted from his heart. In fact, although becoming the Holy Lord of the human clan's sacred ground was a very honorable thing, it meant that from now on he would stand at the peak of the martial god continent. However, it came with a heavy responsibility, a responsibility that could not be shirked no matter what. Now Tao Xian had handed this responsibility to Jun Haoyin. Naturally he felt much more relaxed. By the way, it's time for us to hold the Langya conference in 5 days. But now that this has happened, do we still need to hold the conference? At this moment, a Supreme Elder seemed to have thought of something and suddenly spoke up. Back then it was Jun Haoyin's idea to hold the Langya conference. Given Jun Haoyin's status in the Langya sacred ground, his words were naturally a big deal for the entire Langya sacred ground. Everyone was seriously preparing for it. But now, the Deva's decay was about to descend on the martial god continent. Whether this Langya conference could still be held or not was a problem for everyone present. There's no need to worry about this. The Langya conference will still be held. After all, the Deva's decay is not something that the Langya sacred ground alone can contend against. Hearing this, Jun Haoyin replied. Although he had not officially taken the position of the Holy Lord of Langya, his words carried the same weight as Tao Xian's. That's right. The conference must be held as usual. We have already sent out a notice, and the various sacred grounds in the eastern wilderness have already responded. This conference is also our preparation to resist the Deva's decay. Tao Xian's attitude was the same as Jun Haoyin's. He agreed to continue holding the Langya conference. The Deva's decay was about to descend. It would be best if they could get a few allies at this time. Hearing Tao Xian's words, all the Supreme Elders present nodded in agreement. Next, they had to prepare for the Langya conference. After discussing the specific matters, Jun Haoyin directly left the Langya sacred ground and returned to his Haoyin divine peak. Congratulations, Lord Holy Sun. Congratulations, Lord Holy Sun. Congratulations, Lord Holy Sun. Congratulations, Lord Holy Sun. When Jun Haoyin returned to the acquired heaven divine blade, he was surprised to find that the 108 true disciples of the Langya holy ground were all present. When they saw Jun Haoyin appear, they knelt on the ground without any hesitation. At this moment they looked at Jun Haoyan with burning gazes. Their expressions were full of admiration as if they were greeting Tao Xian. The three leaders were Feng Xiaoyao, Dugu Bo and Bailey Xuanzi. At this moment, their strengths had already reached the Imperial Dao realm. Even though he was still a core disciple at the moment, he would soon be assigned to an important position in one of the 7 main halls. In the future, these people would inherit the position of Temple Lord and become one of the higher-ups of the Langya sacred ground. As for the other talented true disciples, they would also enter the 7 main halls and take up some elder positions. At this moment, these talented successor disciples were all shocked. All of them were willing to submit to Jun Haoyan without exception. "Ah, all of you rise." Jun Haoyan smiled when he saw this scene and allowed them to rise. After that, Jun Haoyan directly walked towards the divine hall and sat at the head of the hall. As for all the successor disciples, they respectfully followed behind him. Now, Jun Haoyan's position as Holy Master was already set in stone. No one could take it away from him. These true disciples were naturally extremely respectful to him. After that, Jun Haoyan told the true disciples about the matters discussed in the Langya sacred ground. He ordered them not to leave the sacred ground during this period of time. Just like that, 5 days passed quickly, and the Langya conference was about to begin. Chapter 214. On this day in the Langya sacred ground, endless divine light flickered in the void as 7-colored auspicious clouds gathered in the sky. Auspicious beasts shuttled back and forth in the sacred mountain while red-crowned cranes danced in the void. At this moment, the Langya sacred ground looked like a paradise. It was like a fairyland. There were countless beautiful sceneries that made people feel relaxed and happy. At this moment, the various protective arrays in the Langya sacred ground had been removed. All the Langya disciples gathered in the central square and were busy. They placed all kinds of fine wine, spiritual fruits, and some demonic beast meat in preparation for the upcoming Langya grand event. These fine wines and spiritual fruits were extremely precious in the eyes of other small forces. However, in the eyes of the Langya sacred ground, they were not worth mentioning at all. At this moment, all the pro-disciples of the Langya sacred ground had appeared. They would be in charge of this grand event. The higher-ups of the Langya sacred ground who had always been elusive. At this moment, the 7 hall masters and the various supreme elders of the 7 halls had also appeared and stood above the void. As the hosts of this grand event in Langya, they naturally could not be the last to appear. They needed to stabilize the situation first. Jun Haoyan and Tao Xian were the 2 actual leaders of the Langya sacred ground. At this moment, they were sitting on the thrones and unparalleled auras were erupting from their bodies. Their bodies were surrounded by majestic true essence, making people have the impulse to worship them at first sight. Jun Haoyan in particular, was dressed in a noble robe and his black hair fluttered in the wind. He showed the demeanor of a peerless genius. His aura was comparable to that of Tao Xian who was beside him. He was like a real sacred lord. Around the 2 of them, the various supreme elders were slowly sitting cross-legged with their eyes closed. The sacred lord of the all-heaven sacred ground has arrived. At this moment, a loud voice suddenly rang out in the void. Upon hearing the voice, most of the pro-disciples opened their eyes and looked at the void in surprise. I didn't expect the Luo Tian Holy Land to be so fast. They have already elected a new Holy Lord. I thought that after the previous Holy Lord of the All-Heaven Holy Land was killed by the Holy Sun, the All-Heaven Holy Land would be without a leader. I didn't expect that a new Holy Lord would appear so quickly. Haha, with the current strength of the Grand Emperor of all heaven, he is no threat to my Langya sacred ground. All the true disciples were looking at the sky as they discussed with smiles on their faces. At this moment, they were looking at the Luo Tian Holy Land with a superior attitude. That battle had thoroughly established the reputation of the Langya Holy Land. 3 holy lords had fallen. The supreme weapon fled in fear. The demon clan's giant had fallen. Such a terrifying battle record was enough to shock the entire martial god continent. Even the Langya sacred land, the number 1 sacred land of the human race, the Kunlun sacred land, would not have been able to achieve such a glorious result. At this moment, the new Holy Lord of the All-Heaven Holy Land turned into a stream of light and slowly appeared in the central square of the Langya Holy Land. Greetings to the Holy Lord of Langya, the Holy Son of the Hao Tian Holy Land. After landing, the new Holy Lord of the All-Heaven Holy Land greeted Tao Xian. However, when he looked at Jun Haoyan, his expression suddenly became very unnatural. Ever since that great battle, Jun Haoyin's name had spread throughout the martial god continent. Not a single person had not heard of him. The Holy Lord of the All-Heaven Holy Land was especially shocked when he sensed the energy in Jun Haoyin's body that was close to the immortal longevity realm. In less than a month, this kid had broken through from the second level of the Transcendence Realm to the peak of the Transcendence Realm. Judging from his aura, it wouldn't be long before he reached the immortal longevity realm. With such a monstrous cultivation speed, no one in the martial god continent would be able to stop him in the near future. Could this guy be the next invincible existence like the Linglong Holy Lord? The Holy Lord of the All-Heaven Holy Land was even more shocked when he thought of this. However, as an elite and the Holy Lord of the All-Heaven Holy Land, he didn't lose his composure. At that moment, the Holy Lord of the All-Heaven Holy Land also noticed Jun Haoyin's seat. When he saw this, he was even more surprised. Even though the Holy Son of the Hao Tian Holy Land had been appointed as the next successor of the Langya Holy Land. However, with his current status he should be below the various Grand Elders. However, from where Jun Haoyin was sitting, it could be said that he was on the same level as the Holy Lord of Langya and Taoxian. It seems like the Holy Son of the Hao Tian Holy Land has an extraordinary position in the Langya Holy Land. Although the Holy Lord of the All-Heaven Holy Land was surprised, he didn't ask any questions. After leaving his gift, he took the initiative to head to his seat. Since the Langya Holy Land was hosting this grand event, everyone who came was a guest. Naturally they had to prepare gifts. The Alcade Holy Lord and the Azure Cloud Holy Lord have arrived. After the Holy Lord of the All-Heaven Holy Land had taken his seat, another voice was heard. Hearing this, the true disciples of the Langya Holy Land and the 7 Hall Masters smiled. The grand event had just begun, and the 3 Holy Lands had already arrived. Moreover, all of them were Holy Lords. If it was in the past, it would have been impossible for them to travel all the way. In such a situation, other than the Kunlun Holy Land, no other Holy Land had such influence. Even when it was the birthday of the strongest person in the Eastern Wilderness, the Linglong Holy Lord, no Holy Lord had personally attended. However, the Langya Holy Land had done so today. This meant that the Langya Holy Land was now on par with the Kunlun Holy Land in the eyes of the Eastern Wilderness martial artists. In fact, the Langya Holy Land's strength was already worthy of such a grand event. After all, the power brought about by the 2 supreme weapons was too terrifying. After a while, the new Alcade Holy Lord and the Azure Cloud Holy Lord went to their seats after handing over their gifts. However, when they saw Jun Haoyin and Tao Xian sitting side by side, they were puzzled. What's going on? The Holy Sun is on par with Tao Xian the day after tomorrow. I don't know. Is the Holy Sun going to take over the position of the Holy Lord of Langya? How is this possible? Although the Holy Sun is powerful, he is only at the peak of the Transcendence Realm. How can he take over the position of the Holy Lord of Langya? The 3 Holy Lords sat together and communicated with their spiritual souls. Obviously they were shocked by the scene in front of them. Although they still harbored hatred for the Langya sacred ground, they were more fearful of it. They had no choice. The previous Holy Lord, who had a supreme weapon, was mercilessly killed by Jun Haoyin. With their strength, how could they go against the Langya Holy Land? Moreover, the 3 Holy Lords were afraid of Jun Haoyin from the bottom of their hearts. In that battle, Jun Haoyin could be said to have made a name for himself. No one in the martial god continent dared to look down on him. Linglong Holy Lord and Linglong Saintess are here. Just as the 3 Holy Lords were conversing in secret, a voice suddenly rang out, causing them to be shocked once again. Linglong Holy Lord, the #1 expert in the East, had come personally. They were not the only ones. At that moment, even the Supreme Elders and the 7 Hall Masters of the Langya Holy Land stood up. They looked at the sky in disbelief. They had never expected the Linglong Holy Lord to come. This was a huge amount of faith. They would never have thought that it was all because of Jun Haoyin. The Linglong Holy Lord was only here for Jun Haoyin. At that moment, everyone looked forward and wanted to see the Linglong Holy Lord's face. In the next moment, endless divine light flashed in the sky and a peerless figure appeared in front of everyone. The figure was domineering and majestic. As soon as the Linglong Holy Lord appeared, she suppressed everyone with her peerless aura. In front of her, the 3 Holy Lords were nothing. They were like ants. Even the Holy Lord of Langya and Tao Xian's aura was suppressed. This scene caused everyone in the Langya Holy Ground to be extremely shocked. However, the Linglong Holy Lord did not seem to want to steal the limelight. After she appeared, she immediately concealed her aura. Then she looked forward and said slowly, Tao Xian, holy son of Haoyan, how have you been? She looked at Jun Haoyan and was surprised. However, she seemed to have thought of something and did not say anything. Seeing this, she guessed that the Langya Holy Land would pass the position of Holy Lord to Jun Haoyan. In her opinion, this was the right choice. At that moment, Tao Xian and Jun Haoyan stood up and bowed slightly to the Linglong Holy Lord. It's the honor of the Langya Holy Land that the Linglong Holy Lord could come personally. Please take a seat. Their attitude towards the other Holy Lords was completely different. At this moment, Tao Xian and Jun Haoyan's expressions were extremely solemn. After all, the Linglong Holy Lord was the most powerful person in Eastern Wilderness. She had to be treated well. Tao Xian and Jun Haoyan could tell that the Linglong Holy Lord in front of them was just an incarnation. However, this did not affect their goodwill towards the Linglong Holy Lord. In their opinion, with the Linglong Holy Lord's status, sending an incarnation was enough to show her sincerity. This was what the Langya Holy Land needed the most now. The 5 decay of heavenly beings was coming. During this great calamity, the Langya Holy Land naturally wanted to form an alliance with the Linglong Holy Land. With the help of the Linglong Holy Lord, whether it was Jun Haoyan or Tao Xian, it would be much easier for them. Moreover, Jun Haoyan had always been respectful towards the Linglong Holy Lord. This woman was just too powerful. The crown prince of the Vermilion Bird dynasty, the Emperor, has arrived. At this moment, another voice rang out, shocking everyone present. The Emperor. It was the #1 genius of Middle Region, the Emperor. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation The Emperor. The #1 genius of the Vermilion Bird dynasty. It was rumored that he was the most outstanding person in the Vermilion Bird dynasty in the past 50,000 years. He was chosen on the day he was born. Wuxia was chosen as the crown prince by Huangzu. He was named the Emperor. After so many years, no one could shake the Emperor's position as the crown prince. Putting everything else aside, the Emperor's domineering name alone was enough to make countless people admire him. 3 years ago in the Middle Region Prodigy competition, the Emperor even crushed the other 3 dynasties' prodigies with an invincible attitude, defeating all of them. Now, no one in Middle Region could shake his position as the #1 prodigy. The Emperor's existence made the Vermilion Bird dynasty even more ambitious. They wanted to use the Emperor's power to expand the Vermilion Bird dynasty's territory. In the Martial God continent, the Emperor's reputation was not lower than the Kunlun Holy Sons. Therefore, when they saw the Emperor's arrival, everyone present stood up and looked forward. They also wanted to see what kind of existence this so-called #1 prodigy of Middle Region was. Even Jun Haoyan and Tao Xian looked at each other and stood up. This action was enough to give the Emperor enough face. The Emperor's arrival this time represented the Vermilion Bird dynasty behind him. As the most ancient dynasty in Middle Region, the Langya Holy Land naturally had to give it enough respect. But in the next moment, the clouds and the void trembled. Endless heaven and earth Yuan Qi vibrated, sweeping across 1,000 miles. Then golden heavenly dragons slowly appeared one after another, shuttling in the void continuously. With such an aura, even an ordinary Transcendence Realm elite would have to retreat 3 miles. Although they had not seen the Emperor in person, the domineering aura of a king filled the void, and the domineering aura had already penetrated deep into everyone's hearts. Boom. At this moment, it was as if heaven and earth were about to split open. Amidst the clouds, a man in a golden python robe slowly walked out. The man's body exuded a peerless aura. His entire person was majestic, and there was a vast amount of true yuan surging around him. Just like that, the man walked down from the void step by step. Behind him, there were 2 elders following. Judging from the aura of the 2 elders, they were 2 ancient giants at the immortal longevity realm. At this moment, the 2 ancient giants followed closely behind the Son of Heaven. Their attitude was extremely respectful. Soon, the Emperor walked directly to the center of the square. He slowly looked at Tao Xian, cupped his hands slightly and said, "Junior Emperor greets the Holy Lord of Langya." After all, Tao Xian was the Holy Lord of Langya sacred ground, and his strength was incomparably powerful. In the previous battle, Tao Xian even displayed the peerless cultivation of the immortal longevity realm. With such an existence, no matter how arrogant the Emperor was, he had to lower his head in front of Tao Xian. Hearing this, Tao Xian nodded and did not say anything. Seeing this, the Emperor smiled slightly and did not care at all. Then he looked at Jun Haoyan who was beside Tao Xian. At this moment, Jun Haoyan was dressed in the Holy Sun's robe, and his aura was even more graceful and noble. A powerful aura that belonged to a proud son of heaven emerged from his body. At this moment, Jun Haoyin's aura was otherworldly and peerless. He was like a true son of God and no one could ignore him. Looking at Jun Haoyin, the emperor, the number one genius of Central Plains, cupped his hands slightly again and said with a smile on his face, "This must be the holy son of Hao Tian. I've been looking forward to meeting you for a long time. I've been friends with you for a long time in Central Plains. Meeting you today, you really live up to your reputation." The emperor directly expressed his goodwill as soon as he opened his mouth. When Jun Haoyin heard this, a smile appeared on his face and he nodded at Tianzi. He did not feel a trace of hostility from the emperor. "I've also been friends with your highness for a long time. If there's a chance, I'll definitely drink with you." Since the other party had given him face, Jun Haoyin naturally wouldn't refuse to give him face. Moreover, at this moment, the 5 decay of heaven and man was descending. One more friend meant one more strength. Chapter 215. Tianzi's eyes lit up when he heard Jun Haoyin's words. He thought to himself that the holy son of Hao Tian was not as arrogant as he was rumored to be. He had always appreciated Jun Haoyin's strength and talent. Now that he saw Jun Haoyin's attitude, he had a better impression of Jun Haoyin. "Haha, since the holy son of Hao Tian invited me, I will definitely accept." After saying that, Tianzi left with the people behind him. However, he did not return to his seat. Instead, he walked slowly to the Linglong sacred leader. "Greetings, Linglong sacred leader." The Linglong sacred leader was the most powerful person in Eastern Wilderness. Even Tianzi had to lower his head in front of her. He knew that the Linglong sacred leader in front of him was just a clone. Of course, Tianzi was also impressed by the legendary woman in front of him. He did not dare to slack off. Moreover, his father, the sovereign of the Vermilion Bird dynasty, was also the most powerful person in Middle Region. He also admired the Linglong sacred leader. Tianzi remembered clearly that his father had said that the Linglong sacred leader was not a match for the Linglong sacred leader even if the 4 sovereigns of Middle Region worked together. From this, it could be seen how terrifying this woman's strength was. Furthermore, Tianzi had also found out some secrets about the 5 decay of heavens and humans. Therefore he was eager to rope in the Langya sacred ground and the Linglong sacred leader. He hoped that he could have 2 more helpers when he fought against the 5 decay of heavens and humans. The Linglong sacred leader nodded slightly when she heard Tianzi's words. She did not say anything. In fact, although Tianzi's performance was impressive, he was far from Jun Haoyin's. Although the Linglong sacred leader was a little cold, Tianzi did not seem to mind at all. He then returned to his seat and closed his eyes to rest. Then, the powerful people from the various forces in Eastern Wilderness, the sects, the itinerant cultivators in Middle Region, and the demon race in Southern Region arrived. They all rushed to the Langya sacred ground to participate in the grand event held by the Langya sacred ground. The Langya sacred ground held a grand event that attracted people from the Middle Plains, Southern Border and Eastern Barren. This scene could not help but make people feel a trace of unusualness. Perhaps only the Kunlun Holy Land, the number 1 holy land of the human race, had such rallying power. It could be seen that the Langya Holy Land now had its own prestige. It was even comparable to the Kunlun Holy Land. During this period of time, the martial artists who came to participate in the grand meeting had varying strengths. Only the lords of the sacred grounds and peerless geniuses were qualified to make the Langya sacred ground announce their arrival. As for some rogue cultivators, they just directly sent congratulatory gifts. No one paid attention to them at all. This was how the world worked. If you weren't strong enough, people wouldn't even bother to remember your name. Just like that, more and more people joined the event. Soon, the number of people reached tens of thousands. These people came from all over the martial god continent. Other than the Kunlun Holy Land, almost all the other holy lands of the Eastern Wilderness had come. Furthermore, the Linglong Saint Master and the Jade Lake Saint Master had brought their saintesses along. This action was enough to show how much importance they attached to the Langya Holy Land. At this moment, the central square of the Langya Holy Land was already filled with guests. It felt like the entire world had come to greet them. The Langya Grand Meeting could be considered to be very successful. However, the influence that the Langya Holy Land displayed had even surpassed the number 1 holy land of the human race, the Kunlun Holy Land. At this moment, a powerful energy fluctuation suddenly surged in the void. Feeling this fluctuation, everyone's gaze once again turned to the void. That is? In the next moment, everyone was shocked. Some rogue cultivators were even more shocked. Thousands of auspicious clouds gathered in the void in the distance. Boundless Bodhi light burst out from the auspicious clouds and swept across the land. Buddhist light. People from the Western Desert Buddhist sect were here too. Golden lotuses continued to fall from the void, making the entire place seem like a Buddhist holy land. In the void there was also a secret Buddhist voice. When the Buddhist voice entered one's ears, it was like being enlightened. Every syllable seemed to be able to enlighten one. Endless Buddhist light appeared and swept across the entire place. This scene caused everyone present to be incomparably astonished. At the same time, fear rose in their hearts. Why are people from the Buddhist sect here too? Didn't the Buddhist sect not interact with Central Plains, Eastern Wilderness, and Southern Border? Why are they here at the Langya Holy Land? Could it be that the Langya Holy Land invited them? But why are the Buddhists here? Since we don't know, let's just wait and see. Who knows, this Buddhist sect might be here to cause trouble. Seeing the Buddhist sect appear, the martial artists present could not stop talking. In their hearts, the Western Desert Buddhist sect was too mysterious. For hundreds of thousands of years, the Buddhist sect had never taken the initiative to contact the outside world. And the disciples of the Buddhist sect rarely left the Western Desert to be active in the outside world. Usually, the Buddhist sect disciples seen in the outside world were not orthodox. Basically, they were all lay disciples of the Buddhist sect. Therefore, when they saw the Buddhist sect disciples appear at the Langya Holy Land, everyone present was shocked. At this moment, most people thought that the Buddhist sect was here to cause trouble. After all, not many people knew that Jun Haoyin had once entered the small Thunderclap Temple. But there were also some people who thought that the influence of the Langya Holy Land had expanded and that even the Buddhist sect of the Western Desert had to show respect and participate in the grand event. When the various holy lords saw the Buddhist sect disciples, they frowned slightly. They had never come into contact with the Buddhist sect and were equally shocked. As for Tao Xian, he looked at the Buddhist light in the void and seemed to have thought of something. Then he looked at Jun Haoyin. Previously, Jun Haoyin had recounted his experience in the Western Desert. Tao Xian naturally knew that Jun Haoyin had benefited greatly from the Buddhist sect. The small Thunderclap Temple had shown great kindness to Jun Haoyin and even gave Jun Haoyin the relic of the temple. Now that the Buddhist sect had come to participate in the Langya Grand event, Tao Xian was certain that the Buddhist sect was here for Jun Haoyin. However, Jun Haoyin looked at the Buddhist light in the void and frowned slightly. From the aura in the void, he could tell that the Buddhist sect was not from the small Thunderclap Temple. In the Western Desert, he was only familiar with the small Thunderclap Temple. He was not so narcissistic that the other Buddhist sects would give him face. Indeed, in the next moment, a voice came from the endless Buddhist light. I am Jin Luan. Greetings, benefactors. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation, I am Jin Luan. Greetings, benefactors. A loud and clear voice carrying Buddhist chants came out from the Buddhist light. Hearing this voice, the expressions of everyone present were shaken. Then everyone stood up and looked at the Buddhist light in disbelief. The Arhat. Jin Luan. The Arhat of the Titanium Temple. The #1 genius of the Western Desert. Jin Luan, who was known as the reincarnation of the Buddha. This status was not much different from the holy lords of the human Holy Land. Moreover, the Buddhist sect had a close relationship with the Pure Land and was extremely mysterious. Take Jin Luan the Arhat for example. He was known as the #1 genius of the Western Desert. However, other than the Western Desert Buddhist sect, no one had ever seen this Arhat's face. Moreover, this was the Arhat of the Titanium Temple. What kind of existence was the Titanium Temple? The most powerful Buddhist sect in the Western Desert. It was also the most orthodox Buddhist legacy left behind in the Pure Land. It was said that no one knew how long the Titanium Temple had existed in the Wuxian continent. According to the ancient records, the Titanium Temple had existed since the ancient times. At that time, the Titanium Temple had more than 10 terrifying Buddhas. In front of the Titanium Temple, even the Kunlun Holy Land and the Vermilion Bird Dynasty were inferior. This was a terrifying existence that could not be ignored. But now, the Arhat of the Titanium Temple had personally come to the Langya sacred ground. At that moment, even the #1 genius of the Central Plains, the Son of Heaven, raised his head and looked at the Buddhist light with a serious expression. In the entire Langya sacred ground square, other than the Linglong Holy Lord who was still calm, everyone else was shocked. However, in the next moment, another rumbling sound came from the void. Then endless Buddhist light shot out again. Then, in front of everyone's eyes, a golden lotus platform slowly appeared in the void. The Golden Lotus platform had 12 layers and was surrounded by dazzling Buddhist light. At that moment, an ordinary-looking young monk was sitting on top of the Golden Lotus platform. The young monk had his palms together. He did not look stunning at all and looked very ordinary. He was like an ordinary mortal that would be hard to notice if thrown into a crowd. However, what shocked everyone was that, after they saw this young monk, they could not recall his face when they turned around. Although the young monk's performance was very ordinary, no one present dared to underestimate him in the slightest. This was because an extremely terrifying scene was appearing behind these youths and the others. At that moment, ancient temples appeared behind the young monk and soared into the sky. In those endless ancient temples, there were tens of thousands of ancient monks chanting sutras and countless mortals worshipping them. It was as if a vast Buddhist kingdom had appeared before everyone's eyes. However, this young monk actually had a total of 3,000 Buddhist kingdoms behind him. Just by staring at it for a while, he felt like he was going to convert to Buddhism. This golden wheel is really not simple. At such a young age, he has already successfully cultivated the 3,000 Buddhist kingdoms' divine ability. At this moment, Linglong Saint, who had been silent all this while, suddenly spoke. Her voice was very soft, but she revealed the origin of this divine ability. As the #1 expert in the Eastern Wilderness, he was at the pinnacle of the Martial God continent. The Linglong Saint Lord had been to every corner of the Martial God continent. She could even come and go freely in the mysterious Western Desert. Some of the lost secrets could not be hidden from her. Master, what does the 3,000 Buddhist kingdoms refer to? Luo Qingxue, who was sitting beside Linglong Saint, asked curiously. Linglong Saint smiled when she heard the question from her favorite disciple. She immediately explained, the Nirvana world is the origin of Buddhism. Rumor has it that there was an invincible monk in the ancient times called Amitabha. He once made a great wish to the heavens that all 3,000 worlds would become Buddhism's pure land and that everyone would have Buddha in their hearts. This was the origin of the 3,000 Buddhist kingdoms. All 3,000 worlds would become Buddhism's pure land? Everyone would have Buddha in their hearts? Everyone gasped when they heard Linglong Saint's explanation. If this great wish came true, would there be any other cultivators in the 3,000 worlds? Would they not all become Buddhism's disciples? Master, what happened after that? His great wish must have failed, right? Luo Qingxue asked when she heard that. Although Buddhism was powerful in the 3,000 worlds, it was far from being able to dominate the world. Obviously, the great wish of the Buddhist elite did not come true. Although the great wish of the Buddhist elite did not come true, he still reached the unparalleled realm and became one of the supreme beings in the deity realm. One of the supreme beings in the deity realm. Hearing this, Luo Qingxue was shocked to the extreme. In the 3,000 worlds, supremes were already the most powerful beings. How terrifying would the supreme beings in the deity realm be? Master, do you mean that the 3,000 Buddhist kingdoms was created by that supreme being? Luo Qingxue asked Linglong Saint Master again. However, Linglong Saint shook her head when she heard that. She continued in a soft voice, how could that supreme existence's divine ability be passed down so easily? This divine ability of the 3,000 Buddhist kingdoms was created by an extraordinary Buddha in accordance with the will of Amitabha Buddha. A divine ability created by a Buddha. Luo Qingxue was still shocked when she heard that. A divine ability created by a Buddha was not to be underestimated. She asked again, what's the name of this Buddha? That Buddha's name is Mahavairakana. Linglong Saint looked at Luo Qingxue affectionately and said slowly, Mahavairakana. Upon hearing this, everyone present looked at the young monk in shock. This was because they had heard from the Western Desert that this Buddha had a golden wheel. He seemed to be the reincarnation of Mahavairakana. However, when Jun Haoyin heard this, what he thought of was completely different from what everyone else had thought. Amitabha, Mahavairakana, Mount Tai, Penglai, what's the connection between them? Jun Haoyin could not help but feel suspicious when he heard those familiar names from his previous life. If there were only one or two of them, Jun Haoyin could still say that it was a coincidence. However, too many things from his previous life had appeared in this world. Jun Haoyin could not help but feel suspicious. At that moment, Jun Haoyin looked at Buddha Jin Luan with a question in his mind. Why were the people from the Titanium Temple here? Why was the Lesser Lane Temple that he was most familiar with not here? Could it be that something had happened to the Lesser Lane Temple? Just as Jun Haoyin was puzzled, Buddha Jin Luan suddenly retracted his aura and turned into an ordinary monk. He walked slowly to Tao Xian and Jun Haoyin, put his palms together and said, Greetings, Holy Lord Langya. Dao Yin nodded slowly when he saw this and he didn't say anything. The next moment, Jin Luan suddenly looked at Jun Haotian. There was a strange look in his eyes. Chapter 216. Not only were the others surprised, but Jun Haotian was also a little confused. He was sure that he had never seen this Arhat of the Vajra temple before. Holy son of Haotian, after the event, can you talk to me alone? After that, Jin Luan did not beat around the bush and directly stated his purpose. Everyone present heard his words. Seeing this, the 7 temple masters and elders of the Haotian sacred ground all frowned slightly. Obviously, they were a little disgusted by Jin Luan's intimacy. For hundreds of thousands of years, the warriors of the Wuxian continent had been wary of the Buddhists of the Western Desert. The Buddhists' power of purification was even more chilling. Now, Jin Luan suddenly expressed his intimacy with the holy son of Haotian. The elders and temple masters of the Haotian sacred ground all thought that Jin Luan was going to harm Jun Haotian. At this moment they stared at Jin Luan sharply, and a hint of hostility flashed in their eyes. It was not their fault. One should know that Jun Haotian was too important to the current Haotian sacred ground. He was no longer just the holy son of the Langya sacred ground. Everyone already regarded him as the true ruler of the Langya sacred ground in the future. If anything happened to him now, the Langya sacred ground would not be able to bear the consequences. Of course, if it were other forces. For example, the holy son of the 7 sacred grounds of the East continent, or the crown prince of the 4 empires of Middle-earth. If these prodigies wanted to be alone with Jun Haotian, they would not care at all. This was because they knew that the holy son and the crown prince's methods could not do anything to the holy son of Haotian. However, it was different for the Buddhists of the Western Desert. Since ancient times, the Buddhists had always been mysterious to outsiders. Other forces knew very little about the methods of the Buddhists. The ancient books recorded the only great battle between the Buddhists and the Eastern wilderness. However, in that battle, the Buddhists did not send out a single soldier, and the great sect disappeared directly. Even the sect leader of the great sect converted to the Buddhists. Such a method could be said to be extremely strange. How could it not cause shock and fear? That was why the temple masters and grand elders of the Langya sacred ground were unhappy when they saw Arhat Jin expressing his desire for peace to Jun Haotian. In their hearts, they were afraid that the golden wheel would harm Jun Haotian. Although they didn't want to see Jun Haotian and Jin Luan getting close to each other. However, with Jun Haotian's current status, they couldn't directly refuse. Instead, they quietly waited for Jun Haotian's reply. Jun Haotian looked at the golden wheel and said, "How can I refuse the Golden Dragon Buddha's invitation? I also have something I want to ask the Buddha." Looking at this scene, Jun Haotian suddenly thought of Master Xuanzang and felt a little amused. Back in the Linglong sacred ground, Grandmaster Xuanzang had also invited him to a private meeting. Could it be that the Buddhists all like to talk to others alone? Jun Haotian wanted to ask about the legend of Amitabha and Vairocana. These secrets couldn't be found anywhere else. He had to ask the Buddhists personally. After his experience in the Western Desert, Jun Haotian didn't think that the Buddhists were that scary. "I wouldn't dare. In that case, I will wait for the Holy Sun's arrival." Arhat Jin Luan put his palms together and smiled humbly. He was very polite. However, Jin Luan's politeness was very dangerous in the eyes of others. They all thought that the financial world was hiding a knife behind a smile. It wasn't as simple as it seemed. After all, the Buddhists of the Western Desert had been famous for more than 10 years. After Arhat Jin Luan finished speaking, he went straight to his seat. Originally, the Langya Sacred Assembly didn't prepare a seat for the Western Desert Buddhists. However, since the Buddhists of the Western Desert had come, there would be other true disciples prepared. Jun Haotian didn't have to worry about that. Because the appearance of Arhat Jin Luan made the entire Langya Sacred Assembly fall silent. However, another group of people came to participate soon. The atmosphere returned to its previous state. Gradually, no one paid attention to Arhat Jin Luan. As more and more people came to participate, the entire central square of the Langya Sacred Assembly was crowded. It was very noisy. It could be said that the Langya Sacred Assembly was very successful this time. Basically, everyone who should be here was here. Even those who shouldn't be here were here. However, as time passed, the Holy Lord of Langya and Tao Xian kept frowning. It was almost time for the Langya Sacred Assembly to start, but no one from the Kunlun Sacred Assembly had come. Not to mention the Holy Sun and the Saintess, even some elders and palace masters didn't come. This scene made Tao Xian's face turn gloomy. There had always been some friction between the Kunlun Sacred Assembly and the Bluetooth Sacred Assembly. Although they weren't as incompatible as the Linglong Sacred Assembly, they still didn't like each other. However, Tao Xian didn't expect that no one from the Kunlun Sacred Assembly would come to such an occasion. They didn't give any face to the Langya Sacred Assembly. It seemed that the Kunlun Sacred Assembly didn't plan to interact with the Langya Sacred Assembly. Even the connection on the surface had been severed. Jun Haoyin didn't have any thoughts when he saw this. Whether the Kunlun Sacred Assembly participated or not didn't have much to do with him. Because of Baiming Han, Jun Haoyin would definitely be on the opposite side of the Kunlun Sacred Assembly in the future. Especially those with the surname Ji. During this time, Jun Haoyin had already found out. In the Kunlun Sacred Assembly, the Ji bloodline had an extraordinary status in the Kunlun Sacred Assembly. 30,000 years had passed. Jun Haoyin didn't know what status Ji Yunhan had in the Kunlun Sacred Assembly or if she was still alive. However, he had already found out that the current Kunlun Sacred Assembly's Ji Wushuang was Ji Yunhan's descendant. The Kunlun Holy Son Ji Wushuang was the direct descendant of the Kunlun Sacred Assembly's Ji Yunhan who betrayed Baiming Han back then. Jun Haoyin swore to avenge Baiming Han back then. This also meant that one day he would be on the opposite side of the Kunlun Holy Son. All of this was destined when Baiming Han gave him the 7-treasure Bodhi tree. At this moment, a roar came from the void. Then the Langya Sacred Assembly's protective array appeared once again. This meant that the welcoming phase of the event had ended. Next, the real event would begin. At this moment, only the Kunlun Sacred Assembly's people hadn't arrived. Seeing this, Tao Xian didn't care so much anymore. Since the Kunlun Sacred Assembly didn't give him any face, he didn't need to wait anymore. Moreover, with the current strength of the Langya Sacred Assembly and the suppression of 2 supreme weapons, if a fight really broke out, the Kunlun Sacred Assembly wouldn't be afraid. The main theme of this event was, of course, Luo Tian, Qing Yun, and Yao Guang clarifying the matter regarding Jun Haoyin falling into the demon path. Then, the new 3 holy lords stood up and said that these were the previous holy lords who had distorted the truth and slandered Jun Haoyin. They also said that the 3 holy lands were guilty. In order to atone for their sins, they would be led by the Langya Sacred Assembly from now on. The next step was a speech by the Holy Lord of Langya, Tao Xian. Of course, this was all just a formality. It was also the usual procedure of every sacred assembly. Then Tao Xian announced in public that when Jun Haoyin broke through to the immortal realm, he would take over the position of the Holy Lord of Langya. This sentence completely shocked everyone present. Previously, when they saw Jun Haoyin's position, they already had some guesses in their hearts. However, when they heard Tao Xian's confirmation, they couldn't help but be shocked. This was the position of the Holy Lord of a sacred ground. So many people dreamed of this position. Now, it was confirmed by Jun Haoyin just like that. However, everyone present was in a high position. After a short period of shock, they quickly recovered. The Holy Son of Hao Tian was confirmed to be the next Holy Lord of Langya. This news was enough to make the Holy Son of Hao Tian the most powerful person among the younger generation of the Wuxian continent. One should know that even the current Eastern Wilderness #1 genius, the Holy Son of Kunlun, didn't receive such treatment. However, no one present doubted Jun Haoyin's strength. During the battle that day, Jun Haoyin had used the blood of 3 holy lords and 2 demon giants to prove his unparalleled strength. With his strength, he was indeed qualified to do so. Next, it was time for the disciples of the various forces to spar with each other. It was also a good thing. True disciples, core disciples, and inner disciples were all allowed to participate. If they were willing, even Holy Sun-level existences could participate in the competition. Of course, the current Jun Haoyin no longer needed this method to prove his strength. He looked at the eager disciples of the various forces in the square and felt a little bored. With his current strength, if he were to participate, not many present would be his opponent. Other than Arhat Jin Luin and the Crown Prince of the Vermilion Bird Dynasty, even the older generation powerhouses would find it difficult to suppress him. Obviously, everyone present was aware of this situation, so no one asked him to participate. However, at this moment, a voice suddenly appeared in Jun Haoyin's mind. Holy Son of Hao Tian, can we meet alone? Chapter 2. Emperor. When Jun Haoyin heard this, he didn't look at Arhat Jin Luin. This was because this sentence didn't come from Jin Luin, but from the Crown Prince of the Vermilion Bird Dynasty. Emperor. In the next moment, Jun Haoyin slowly turned around and looked at the Emperor in the distance. At this moment, the Emperor was also smiling as he looked at Jun Haoyin. His expression was very kind as he nodded slightly at Jun Haoyin. In response, Jun Haoyin naturally had no reason to refuse, so he immediately replied through telepathy. Let's have a chat at the Heavenly Mountain. After saying this, Jun Haoyin stood up and greeted Tao Xian, who was beside him. Holy Lord, I have to leave for a while. On the other hand, Dao Yin did not even turn his head. He merely nodded his head gently. Go ahead. Do whatever you want to do. We'll take care of everything here. The Langya Grand Banquet could be attended by him, the Holy Lord of Langya. It didn't matter whether the Holy Lord was present or not. Hearing this, Jun Haoyin bowed, then turned into a stream of light and quickly disappeared from the square. The guests present didn't pay much attention to this scene and continued to admire the battle in the square. At this moment, in the Langya Sacred Ground Square, there were scenes of elite disciples from various sects fighting. It could be considered to be extraordinarily brilliant. Of course, as the host, the Langya Sacred Ground naturally took out a corresponding prize as the prize for this battle. Anyone who achieved a good result in this competition would receive an extraordinary reward. This battle added a layer of fun to the grand banquet and didn't seem so boring. After Jun Haoyin left, the emperor gave some instructions to the people around him, then turned into a stream of light and disappeared from the square. At this moment, Jin Luan, who was originally sitting on the ground, suddenly opened his eyes. He looked at the disappearing Jun Haoyin and pondered for a moment, but didn't get up. He knew in his heart that it wasn't the right time yet. If he met Jun Haoyin rashly, it would only cause him to be annoyed and counterproductive. Although he was the holy son of Buddhism, no one had come to greet him since he came here. It couldn't be helped. To the martial artists in the eastern wilderness and central region, Buddhism in the western desert always represented mystery and danger. Because of this, naturally, no one came to look for trouble. They were all afraid in their hearts. What if they got close to this monk and were unknowingly converted to Buddhism by him? What would they do? Thinking of this, everyone present distanced themselves from Jin Luan and didn't dare to get close to him. Jin Luan looked at this scene and slowly shook his head. He knew in his heart that the people in the eastern wilderness and central region had a deep misunderstanding of Buddhism. However, there was nothing he could do about it. These matters were not something that could be explained in a few words. But in the summer, Jin Luan decided to stay for a while longer before going directly to Jun Haoyin. At this moment in the temple of Hao Tian Godly Peak. Not long after Jun Haoyin stepped into the temple of Hao Tian, the Son of Heaven followed closely behind. Haha, I finally left that place. Ever since I was young, I hated this kind of occasion the most. If it wasn't for my father forcing me to come, plus my curiosity about you, the Holy Son of Hao Tian, I definitely wouldn't have come to this so-called grand occasion. The Son of Heaven complained the moment he stepped into the temple of Hao Tian. It seemed like he didn't like that kind of occasion. However, as the crown prince of the Vermilion Bird dynasty and the top prodigy of Central Region, he had to attend this kind of occasion. After hearing the Son of Heaven's complaints, Jun Haoyin wanted to laugh and looked at him in surprise. It was completely different from what he had imagined. The crown prince of the Vermilion Bird dynasty, the top prodigy of Central Region, wasn't that arrogant. After the Son of Heaven stepped into the temple of Hao Tian, he completely threw away his previous dignity and was just like an ordinary young man. Moreover, from the Son of Heaven's words just now, Jun Haoyin could also tell. This Son of Heaven was also a man of character. One had to admit that Jun Haoyin had misjudged him on this point. Disregarding everything else, just the domineering name of the Son of Heaven was enough to make people fearful. Moreover, legend had it that the crown prince of the Vermilion Bird dynasty had unparalleled talent since young. His strength was unparalleled, and he had the charisma of a peerless emperor. Anyone who heard this would feel that the Son of Heaven was a very dignified person. Chapter 217. Of course, all of this had no effect on Jun Haoyin. When he heard the emperor's words, he couldn't help but laugh. The crown prince is right. I don't really like that kind of occasion either. You can even call me by my name. I don't really want to be the crown prince or whatever. As for the emperor or whatever, that's all. Perhaps because there was no one else at the moment, the emperor's attitude was very casual. Even his tone was nonchalant. He didn't even care about the position of crown prince or emperor. Luckily, the one standing in front of him was Jun Haoyin. If it were anyone else, they would probably be shocked to hear his rebellious words. The Vermilion Bird dynasty was the #1 ancient dynasty in the Central Plains. It ruled over hundreds of millions of miles of mountains and rivers, controlling countless living beings. As the emperor of the Vermilion Bird dynasty, He could decide the life and death of countless living beings with a single thought. However, such a noble position didn't seem to be much in front of the emperor. However, after hearing the emperor's words, Jun Haoyin looked at him in a different light. Since that's the case, then I won't hold back, Brother Xia. My name is Jun Haoyin. You can also call me by my name. Jun Haoyin said with a smile on his face. The Vermilion Bird Dynasty's royal family was surnamed Xia, so the emperor was also surnamed Xia. Emperor Xia. Ah, good. I like to deal with people like Brother Haoyin. Hearing that, the emperor couldn't help but laugh. However, the emperor quickly retracted his smile. He looked at Jun Haoyin with a frown. I believe Brother Haoyin should also know about what happened in the Vermilion Bird Dynasty. The emperor was naturally referring to the matter of Mount Tai. Jun Haoyin nodded when he heard that. He already knew that the emperor wanted to talk to him alone. Naturally, he wouldn't talk nonsense with him. Right now, something that the emperor valued so much. It was none other than Mount Tai that had undergone a change in the Vermilion Bird Dynasty. I've heard about the internal affairs of the Vermilion Bird Dynasty. That's right, I know very little. I wonder if Brother Xia has any specific information? Jun Haoyin said slowly as he looked at the emperor. Hearing this, Tianzi frowned slightly. What happened at Mount Tai was extremely weird, so he didn't want to talk about it. Seeing this, Jun Haoyin's eyes flashed and he spoke again. Of course, if Brother Xia has any difficulties, you don't have to say it. I can understand. Since Mount Tai had appeared within the Vermilion Bird Dynasty, the Vermilion Bird Dynasty naturally had the deepest understanding of Mount Tai. However, in the Vermilion Bird Dynasty, this was naturally a secret. If Tianzi was unwilling to say more, Jun Haoyin naturally wouldn't force him. Besides, he also felt that Tianzi was a good person and could be friends with him. Perhaps it would be of some help to him in this great calamity? Haha, Brother Haoyin must be joking. What's wrong with that? To be honest, I came to the Langya sacred ground to discuss this matter with Brother Haoyin. Hearing Jun Haoyin's words, Emperor Xia waved his hand and said nonchalantly. He was very forthright. Then, without hesitation, he told Jun Haoyin about it. A moment later, he revealed all the secrets that had happened in Mount Tai. These secrets were unknown to the other major forces. Although martial artists couldn't enter Mount Tai, I sent a large number of mortals into Mount Tai. Speaking of which, it's strange. I don't know what restrictions are in Mount Tai, but even treasures can't be used. Instead, some mortal weapons can be used inside. In order to investigate the secrets in Mount Tai, I sent a total of 100,000 mortals into Mount Tai. Hearing this, Jun Haoyin couldn't help but be shocked. 100,000 mortals into Mount Tai. This Vermilion Bird Dynasty was really generous. At the same time, Jun Haoyin couldn't help but sigh at the sad fate of mortals in this world. 100,000 mortals were driven into Mount Tai like weeds. It was unknown whether they were dead or alive. However, Jun Haoyin had to admit that the Vermilion Bird Dynasty's method was pretty good. With so many mortals entering, the Vermilion Bird Dynasty would probably be able to obtain many secrets about Mount Tai. Of course, with the Vermilion Bird Dynasty's foundation, in order to achieve their goal. Not to mention 100,000 mortals, even if it was 1,000,000 or 10,000,000 mortals, they wouldn't hesitate. With so many people entering Mount Tai, the Vermilion Bird Dynasty should know many secrets about Mount Tai. Thinking of this, Jun Haoyin suddenly looked at Emperor Tianzi and said slowly. Hearing this, Emperor Xia didn't hide anything. At that moment, Emperor Xia said directly, "From those mortals we found out that in Mount Tai, some figures can often be seen worshipping the heavens. In addition, we also found out that there's an extremely mysterious force surrounding Mount Tai. According to the mortals' description, this force seems to be building an altar. Regarding this, the mortals said that they couldn't see it clearly and could only see an outline." At this point, Emperor Xia paused for a moment. After looking at Jun Haoyin, he continued, "I reported this to my father. He said that after the altar is completed, it will be time to explore the secrets of Mount Tai." Chapter 2, Small Lane Temple Destroyed. Altar? Hearing this, Jun Haoyin's heart was filled with doubts. After the altar is completed, it will be time to explore the secrets of Mount Tai. Emperor Xia's words shocked Jun Haoyin even more. He had long guessed that Mount Tai was not that simple. The information that the Langya sacred ground received was too one-sided. The Vermilion Bird Dynasty was indeed the #1 dynasty in the Central Plains. In such a short period of time, they were able to obtain so many secrets. Even Jun Haoyin was a little surprised at this point. Until now, Mount Tai had risen tens of thousands of feet and reached the outer region. It was still the center of attention of the entire martial god continent. Almost every faction wanted to see the secrets hidden in Mount Tai. However, there was a barrier in Mount Tai. Within a radius of 10,000 meters, martial artists could not enter. Once a martial artist tried to force his way in, he would be unable to use the origin energy in his body. He would gradually be lost in Mount Tai and would never be able to come out. According to Emperor Xiao, one could not even use their treasures in Mount Tai. At this point, the number of martial artists guarding Mount Tai had reached 1 million. They all wanted to enter Mount Tai. According to the people who entered Mount Tai was a place where the ancient dynasty offered sacrifices to heaven and earth and prayed to the gods in ancient times. It was very likely that there was a legacy left behind by the gods at the peak of Mount Tai. If one could obtain it, they could immediately become a paragon and break through the void. Jun Haoyin did not believe this saying. However, he could not rule out the existence of such a possibility. From Emperor Xia's words, Jun Haoyin also knew that the barrier of Mount Tai might be opened in the future. When that time came, it would be time to truly explore Mount Tai. "Oh right, Brother Xia, what does the altar you mentioned look like? Can you tell me about it?" Suddenly, Jun Haoyin thought of the altar that Emperor Xia mentioned. He had a feeling that the altar would be very important to explore Mount Tai. However, Emperor Xia frowned when he heard Jun Haoyin's question. It was not that he did not want to say. It was because he could not answer this question. Although mortals can enter Mount Tai, they do not have the ability to climb the mountain. They can only roughly see the outline of the altar. Emperor Xia could only express his helplessness towards this question. Until now, they still did not know what the altar looked like. "Brother Haoyin, this is all the secrets I know about Mount Tai." At this moment, Emperor Xia looked at Jun Haoyin. His gaze was very open. Clearly, there was nothing left to hide from Jun Haoyin. After all, those who could enter Mount Tai were all mortals. The secrets that they could know were naturally very limited. For Xia Qinzi to be able to reveal so much to Jun Haoyin, he had already shown enough sincerity. "Hehe Haoyin, thank you for your honesty, Brother Xia. However, I would like to ask if the Vermilion Bird dynasty has already told this news to many people?" At this moment, Jun Haoyin looked at Emperor Xia meaningfully and spoke slowly. He did not believe that the Vermilion Bird dynasty's crown prince would tell him everything about such an important matter after only meeting once. Unless this was already a piece of news on the streets. Hearing this, Emperor Xia did not deny it at all and nodded directly. Although these secrets are difficult to find out, they can't be hidden for long to some of the major forces. It's better to do a favor and tell them honestly. However, the reason why I'm looking for Brother Haoyin this time is actually because after Mount Tai opens, I hope that Brother Haoyin can form an alliance with me and explore Mount Tai together. Then Emperor Xia spoke again and revealed his purpose. He hoped to form an alliance with Jun Haoyin when Mount Tai opens. When Jun Haoyin heard this, he did not immediately agree. He looked at Emperor Xia strangely and asked, "With Brother Xia's strength, how many people in the Wuxian continent can compete with you? Why do you need to form an alliance with me?" When Emperor Xia appeared in the Langya sacred ground, Jun Haoyin could already sense that his cultivation was at the peak of the Transcendence realm. Such a realm was enough to dominate the younger generation. Moreover, through his powerful soul power, Jun Haoyin could even sense the vitality in Emperor Xia's body. It could be said to be incomparably dense. With such a foundation, even the average immortal longevity realm cultivator would not be a match for Emperor Xia. The #1 prodigy of the central region was not an undeserved reputation. Currently, on the martial god continent, the few geniuses who stood at the very top were almost at the same level. Whoever could cross this line first would become the #1 prodigy of the Wuxian continent. Even the Buddhists of the Western Desert were included. Therefore, under such circumstances, logically speaking, Emperor Xia did not need to form an alliance with anyone. With the Vermilion Bird dynasty behind him, with such a strong foundation, even the Kunlun sacred ground could fight head-on. However, when Emperor Xia heard this, he shook his head. "Brother Haoyin, you may not know, but my father once said that after Mount Tai opens, any immortal longevity realm cultivator will not be able to enter Mount Tai. Moreover, you should also know that the 5 decay of heaven and man is about to descend. The Chancellor of the Vermilion Bird dynasty once declared that the day Mount Tai opens will be the day when the elites of the other continents descend." At this moment, Emperor Xia's expression was very serious. When he mentioned the 5 decay of heaven and man, his expression also became serious. On the day Mount Tai opened, the elites of the other continents would directly arrive. Hearing this, Jun Haoyin was shocked. Could it be that Mount Tai had something to do with the 5 decay of heaven and man? So, The reason you want to join forces with me is to fight against the peerless prodigies from the other continents? At this moment, Jun Haoyin looked at Emperor Xia with a very serious expression. With his current strength, he was confident that no one in the 3,000 worlds would be a match for him. However, there were mountains beyond mountains and towers beyond towers. There was always a higher mountain. Having no opponents did not mean that he would not encounter danger. Joining forces with a peerless prodigy like Emperor Xia was not a bad idea. Moreover, the secret of Mount Tai was obviously not that simple. At this thought, Jun Haoyin looked at Emperor Xia and slowly nodded. "Alright, brother Xia. I agree to join forces with you." "Ah, great." Hearing Jun Haoyin's words, Emperor Xia's eyes could not help but light up. He believed that with Jun Haoyin's participation, he would have greater confidence in the exploration of Mount Tai this time. However, in the next moment, Jun Haoyin and Emperor Xia both looked outside the main hall. In the next moment, a majestic and unparalleled aura suddenly erupted from the two of them. For a moment, the entire main hall was filled with some rumbling sounds. "Amit Ba, I did not intend to hear the conversation between the two of you." As soon as he said that, Jin Luan, the arhat of the Titanium Temple, slowly walked out. In an instant, the aura that erupted from Jun Haoyin and Emperor Xia's body was completely suppressed. At this moment, Jin Luan was standing in the main hall with his hands clasped together and his mouth chanting scriptures. "You bald donkey, eavesdropping on others' conversation. Isn't that a violation of the Buddhist precepts?" Emperor Xia pointed at Jin Luan and scolded him directly. His tone was extremely arrogant. If it were anyone else, they would not dare to be so arrogant in front of the strange and mysterious Buddhist sect. He even dared to say the word bald donkey. Seeing that, Jun Haoyin smiled slightly. His eyes were also fixed on Jin Luan, waiting to see how he would explain himself. "Amit Ba, I overheard it by accident. It's not my fault if it was unintentional. I believe that the Buddha will forgive me." Facing Emperor Xia's insults, Jin Luan was not angry at all and spoke slowly. Perhaps, from the beginning to the end, he did not take the emperor's words seriously. "Don't worry, the two of you. The Buddhist sect will not participate in the mystery of Mount Tai." As if afraid that the two of them would not believe him, Jin Luan explained again. In response, Emperor Xia's lips moved as if he wanted to say something. However, Jun Haoyin stopped him directly. He knew in his heart that since Jin Luan was the arhat of the Vajra temple, he could not be lying. Therefore he looked at Jin Luan and said slowly, "I wonder what brings you here, arhat? One would not visit a temple without a cause." Jun Haoyin did not believe that this monk would be fine after chasing him. When Jin Luan heard Jun Haoyin's words, he first sighed, then chanted a Buddhist proclamation and said slowly, "Holy son of Jun Haoyin, the Lesser Thunderclap Temple has been destroyed." You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.